grim day, but the sun is trying.
Literally, as I was just introducing you, the sun broke out a little bit over Boylston Street. So come down and visit us I'm sure it's very windy.
Yes.
It looks like it's very windy, but the rain has stopped, at least for the moment. So come down and visit us at the Boston Public Library. So we have a little bit of breaking news, at least breaking news to us, because it is about us.
Oh.
But if you've ever wondered what it's like to be on the show, I guess we found out this morning because Chris Fleming, you may remember, he's a comedian. He had a show at the Wilbur last week. And before that, he sat down with Jim and me. I was in for Marjorie last Tuesday and for an interview. And then apparently he talked about us at the Wilbur Theater. And then he just tweeted that exchange out about what it's like to be on this show. So here's what Chris Fleming had to say.
And the mayor is standing on their level, on the two interviewers' level. Then she leaves, and they change the whole set, and they put me in what can only be described as like a sci-fi dystopian courtroom. My hands have never been plunged so deep into my pocket. Look at how bad a time I'm having. They are looming over me.
So, as I say, now you know what it's like to be on Boston Public Radio. Apparently, we're dystopian here.
I have been in that seat. I am a guest here when I'm not a co-host.
Same here.
More often, right? And it's fine. It's okay. I like to look up at Jim and Marjorie. It makes me feel, like a little kid who's being taken care of during the interview process. I don't know what Chris's problem is.
Oh, well, I guess we usually give guests the choice to either stand or sit. I usually stand just because I feel like it's more energy and want to stand tall to talk about the arts.
Well, if it didn't happen, we wouldn't be in the bit.
That's right.
So there you go. Thank you, Chris.
All right, yes, thank you, Chris. Happy holidays to you. All right, well, whether you're looking out your bedroom window from the window of your car or on your way to work or the giant glass walls of our sci-fi dystopian courtroom here, suffice it to say the weather outside is indeed frightful today. And with Christmas around the corner, Hanukkah in full swing, it's got us thinking about the holidays as they could be, whatever that means to you. So give us a call or text us. Our number is 877-301-8970. If you had your way, what would you do away with this holiday season? Would you skip the family Christmas party, the yearly slog, perhaps taking your daughter to the Nutcracker for the 10th time? Do you know anything about that,
I
Sue
do
O'Connell?
indeed. Every Christmas Eve, there I am at the Nutcracker.
She says through gritted teeth. Or is
Love the Nutcracker.
Yes, we all do. Or is the perfect holiday spent at home in a bath with some fancy soap you bought on a Black Friday sale? If you're not a Grinch, what is it about this time of year that you couldn't do without the family Christmas party you look forward to every year, Marjorie's Christmas party, that timeless tradition of going to see the Nutcracker on Christmas Eve with your mother? Again, our number is 877-301-8970, 877-301-8970 to call or text us for the holiday you wish could happen.
Yeah, so, here we are with this terrible weather all across the country, not just here, and the woes and challenges of the triple-demic, right? We've got the flu and the RSV and the pandemic, and we've got all the inflation, which is causing everything to cost more. And, on a good year, I often feel a mix of both dread and fatigue when it comes to the holidays. And I often think, if money was my fantasy holiday, if I could just do what I wanted to do without having to worry about pleasing other people, doing holiday traditions that I may or may not be totally bought into anymore, what would I do? What would you do, Jared?
Oh, I thought you were going to answer. So we're going to build up. You. Well, in thinking about this, I recognize that I love the lead up to the holidays without all the stress, without having to run around, without having to, work is often a lot of work because you're trying to, as everybody does, trying to do everything you can to be able to take the time off around the holidays, plus the shopping and all the things you're supposed to do. But what I love the holiday music. I love the decorations. I love the specials on TV. I love to come home at night and Rudolph is playing or Frosty is playing. And so I just love the feeling of the holidays.
Yes, I love the holiday season as well. I probably should have led with that, not just the dread. I actually love the holiday season. I love visiting with people. I like to drop by. I don't like to host. But I like to go by and visit people.
And by host, you mean just check out a few things online and have it delivered?
Yeah, no, just that's how I am hosting my own Christmas dinner, by ordering things pre-cooked. But I mean, just seeing people again, reconnecting with people, dropping by with people, that would be what I would very much enjoy doing. I think part of it is, I do. My brother is 15 years older than I am, so we both like to joke that we're both only children. We both had very only child experiences growing up. And, just the idea of sitting home with my parents, who were fine, on Christmas Day, waiting to go somewhere, waiting to go to my cousin Joyce's house, waiting to, get out. So I always crave being with other people and connecting with them. And I don't really get to do that much. So that's what my perfect holiday would be. So we're wondering what your perfect holiday would be. 877-301-8970. You can call or text us.
And let's start with Bob from Pembroke. Hi, Bob.
Hi, good morning. Thank you. I would love to see dialing back on the amount of money and time that people spend on buying presents. I think each year we get more and more involved in spending for bigger and better things, and I just think it misses the point. I heard someone speaking recently, and they said to a bunch of students, the greatest present is you. And at this time of the year, we should be giving ourselves away to people who need our love.
Oh, that's
That's
beautiful.
a perfect sentiment, Bob.
Michelle Singletary just wrote about that recently, the financial columnist from the Washington Post, who's also frequently on BPR. It's about presents with CE, not about presents, TS. And just being present, especially in this time where we, coming out of the pandemic, again, hopefully, qualified, hopefully we're coming out of it, the fact that we can be together for the first time in a long time, although COVID rates are going up, so we have to be careful, but the fact that we can be together again and we're not in that time without vaccines or anything, it matters just to be together.
Thanks, Bob. Have a great holiday. Thanks for calling. The other thing, too, is just recognizing, people. That's part of it. We have a joke around our family, too, at my workplace, my other workplace at NBC 10 Boston and NECN. I bring what we jokingly call the TJ Maxx checkout aisle basket. My daughter and I...
the clearance section?
Yeah, my daughter and I go out and we buy a bunch of gifts that are under $10. They could be an ice scraper for your car, lip balm, a face mask. We go through and just pick this whole variety, coffee cups, air freshener for your car, and then we went into the office and just walked around and let people pick the present that they wanted. And again, it's it's not super expensive by any means, but it's just a thoughtful way to kind of engage with people that as they say in Avatar, as I know, Jared, you love that movie so much. I see you, and it just recognizes them. So
there are those nice little surprises to come into the office, and there's a plate of cookies, or people bringing things, or just doing unexpected things that just shake up the day a little bit too, which really kind of only happens around this time of the year.
Liz from Alston is texting us to say, I've never been to Marjorie's Christmas party. I also finally got invited this year after 15 years of Marjorie texting me crazily going, what's your email address? So I finally got invited because Marjorie, after knowing her for 30 years, finally has my email address, which I think everybody has. But Liz points out that it's definitely something that gives her joy during the holidays purely because of how mad Jim gets that he's not invited. So there you go. That's nothing like someone else's anger to really bring Christmas joy to your heart.
Refine it and put a bow on it in just that nice little way. We have Janice, who's texting from the Cape, saying, I would take my family on a plane across the ocean to Ireland, and we would stay there in a fancy hotel and celebrate Christmas there and see all the beautiful sights. Which is so nice that she wants to be with her family on a family trip and that they can enjoy it. And that's such a magical place, the landscape in Ireland.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to go to Hawaii. I know people, I used to know people who would go to Hawaii for the entire vacation. I've never celebrated the holiday outside of, our whole family is here mostly, so we've never had to travel, but I don't know if I could do a warm weather, although I might do it this year. It might be a warm weather holiday.
It is interesting. I had mentioned I was recently in LA, and so I think it was the first time I'd ever been in a warm weather environment to see the Christmas decorations and holiday decorations on palm trees and try to have this sense of Christmas while it's relatively warm and the sun is shining every day at the different experience.
You know where I could go? You're all going to laugh at me. I could go to Disney for Christmas.
Really?
I really could, alone.
Said no one ever.
No, me. I could really buy into the whole Disney corporate Christmas.
Well, our number is 877-301-8970. Josh is watching on YouTube and says, my favorite thing is watching The Muppet Christmas Carol with my dad. That's another thing I love. I love because I think we never have a year that some different movie version of A Christmas Carol doesn't come out. I still love my favorite, which all of my family wants to toss me out for. My favorite is the 1938 version.
Yeah.
Which I think it's because it's the first version I ever saw, so it's very dear for that reason. Everybody else claims the Alistair Sims version, but...
We have a number of movies we watch in my household. None of them were age appropriate when we started watching them, but they have kind of aged in. Of course, Love Actually, which I know is controversial.
Yes.
But we've already watched that. Bridget Jones, another one that we watch. Elf, we start the holiday season off every year with Elf.
Well, every year at Christmas Eve, I watch The Bishop's Wife with Cary Grant and Loretta Young. It's a super sweet movie, and yeah, it's just very dear.
And we start the Christmas music on the Friday after Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Oh, you don't cheat and do it before?
No, because we believe in the protection of Thanksgiving as its own thing. So
Well,
let's go to Margaret, who's calling us from Woburn. Hello, Margaret. Happy holidays. What's your ideal holiday celebration?
Thank you.
Hi, Margaret.
Hi. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and all that. Happy Kwanzaa. Right? The thing that my family has always enjoyed is going to look at the Christmas lights in the local, on the streets here. We have been doing that for years. And it's Shields and Elijah are the big streets here that people stop and they're like so excited. And it's a great time. And the Christmas movie that we all like is The Family Stone.
That has a...
Well, don't spoil it, Jared.
Oh, we love it.
It's 500 years old. Don't spoil it, Jared.
It was on a DVD. If people know what a DVD is.
Yeah, we watched that. I think we watched that last year. My daughter was just horrified at the end.
I might have to
turn
it off 10 minutes before the end.
The end, yeah.
That might be my, my advice. Otherwise, I love it.
We love it, Margaret. Thanks for calling. You have a good holiday. Thanks for calling us. We're going to go look at the lights, too. That'll be exciting. Yeah, the movie thing is great. I always like it for movies that aren't holiday movies that are must-watch, too. We don't have any of those, but I know there are families who do that.
That aren't holiday. But you're keeping Die Hard outside of that.
No,
because I argue
are we going to fight this? It's a holiday music.
No, I agree with you.
It's definitely a holiday movie. Anything that has any holiday mention of it becomes that holiday's movie. That's it. No discussion.
Even if there's machine gun fire.
Doesn't matter. What's the holiday movie this year? The Santa violent movie? What's that called? With the guy from
intense and not very holiday-ish. Aside from a Santa Claus costume.
Here's one of my favorites right now. TR from Waltham has texted us at 877-301-8970. TR says, I wish Christmas could occur once every 4 years, like the Olympics, right?
Yeah,
you kind of build up for it.
Wants a little relaxation from all the mania. Well, that's the other thing. You have all of this. Everything is a frenzy. Everything is a race. It's a sprint. And then you get to the holiday, and then what?
Well, I also still count the holidays. I'm not one of those people that, okay, it's Boxing Day, it's over. I'm like, we're still in the holiday season until Chinese New Year, whenever that happens.
So into January.
Yeah, that's my goal.
All right, let's go to Jill in Falmouth. How do you approach the holidays, Jill?
Well, I'm just going to share my favorite holiday, which was Christmas of COVID year. No one came over our house. We didn't go anywhere. We stayed in our pajamas all day. We ate whatever the hell we felt like, and we watched Christmas all day long. It was the best Christmas I've had in decades.
Jill, I have to say, I have people in my family who, besides the horror of what COVID wrought, is just like not having to do anything was the best possible holiday ever. Have you incorporated that now? Have you scaled back and are saying, look, there was some gifts in this, let's keep them?
Yes. I'm trying so hard this year. Of course, my dad fell a couple of weeks ago.
I'm sorry.
So I've not been. So no presents are wrapped. I've missed my house with my tree and my lights, and it's like, fortunately, I'm going home tomorrow. So, but yeah, 2020, COVID sucked, but Christmas was the best ever.
All right, Jill. Well, good luck to you this year, and I hope things turn around, and I hope you get to keep some of the good things from that COVID Christmas of 2020. Thank you, Jill.
That does sound pretty divine, staying in your pajamas all day.
Yeah, we definitely do that. All right, we're talking about what the perfect holiday season looks like for you, what parties you'd skip, what beach you'd like to book a flight to, what aunt you'd like to stuff it. No, tell her to stuff it, or stuff your aunt, one or the other. Or for the wholesome among us, what couldn't you give up? What do you cherish? We're going to keep it going after this break. You can stay with us, of course. 877-301-8970. Call or text. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH.
I'm Marco Werman. We're living through history, and the world's newsroom has the first draft.
If journalists leave a scene, it becomes a black hole. Then the world doesn't find out what's happening. And when the world doesn't know what's happening, human sympathy also evaporates.
Looking for answers and making sense of global events as they happen. Join us on The World.
This afternoon at 3, here on GBH News 89.7.
Support for our programs comes from you. And Boston Ballet, presenting The Nutcracker. Dare to dream big with New England's favorite holiday tradition. You can gather with family and friends to see it live at the Citizens Bank Opera House now through December 31st. Tickets at bostonballet.org. And Subaru of New England. This winter, you can take your adventures outside in the 2023 Subaru Outback with symmetrical all-wheel drive. You can find your Subaru retailer at subaruofnewengland.com.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. I am Jared Bowen here with Sue O'Connell. We're live at the Boston Public Library. So are our sandwiches. We both have our sandwiches, including the Spicy Jared here today.
And the Sue, which is a tribute, I believe, to the roast beef sandwiches of my youth on Revere Beach.
It's very good holiday fare, pre-holiday fare. And we're streaming, I should mention, at youtube.com/GBH News. If you're just joining us, we're having a conversation about the parts of the holiday season we appreciate, but really the parts of the holiday season we wish we could appreciate. The things we would do, the things we would buy, the people we would see to really treat ourselves, and specifically the things we've never been able to do. So give us a call or text us at 877-301-8970. Again, that's 877-301-8970. You can also tweet us at Boss Public Radio to send your messages our way.
Annie is in Rhode Island joining us. Hey, Annie, welcome to Boston Public Radio. What's your holiday faves or fantasy?
Hi, it's Amy, actually, not Annie. The part of a holiday that I could do without is surprise kindergarten gift exchanges. My kid and I were both, actually the whole family was sick with RSV for a week.
Oh.
When he went back, there was a note in the folder saying, please get a pair of Christmas socks, well, holiday socks, for a gift exchange and turn them in tomorrow. That didn't happen. Number one, we're Jewish, so getting a pair of Santa socks for my kid is not exactly on the top of my list.
Right.
And number two, I drove around to like 3 different stores and couldn't find anything. Fortunately, one of the other moms had sent in like 6 pairs of socks, so the village took care of me.
Wow.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like a lot of holiday fun and cheer. Mandated gift giving.
Yeah.
Which I think violates the whole notion of you're doing it from your heart to give something. There's supposed to be enjoyment in it, not stress about running around to 3 different places. Thank you for the call.
Yeah, the whole elementary school years of my kid I don't miss. She used to take things, she still does, very seriously. And they'd have a holiday bazaar where they would sell small things. It was certainly run by the parent group to raise money for the school. And my daughter once, who liked to hoard money, actually hoard cash because she didn't want to put the money in the bank because she wanted to get the exact bills back. And if she gave the money to the bank, she wouldn't get those bills back. Okay, so she actually brought $100 with her once to the holiday bazaar. I was obviously not checking her lunchbox when she went to school, so it came back with $100 worth of trinkets.
A lot of macaroni castles.
No kidding. There you go.
We have this text. I love this one. I wish that I could spend this time doing projects around the house. Instead, I pretend to be enjoying myself. My wife and kids really enjoy spending this time eating and doing nothing. I look forward to a snowstorm, so I have an excuse to go snow blow the driveway.
Yes, and there's also the whole family or the whole group of people who work on holidays. Journalists.
Yep.
First responders, medical professionals, snowplow people. I mean, all the people caterers who work on holidays, and some who choose don't have to work on holidays, but volunteer to work on the holidays.
I was assigned another shift.
Can
you believe it?
Yes, and that gives them the great break from their family because they have to work. And I think at some point I realized a lot of those folks are actually, especially if they get to a senior level or a seniority level, they're choosing to work. So good on you, I say.
But otherwise, I think we're having a theme here, which is everybody just wants to be home together, and a lot of not getting dressed and a lot of eating.
Yes, let's talk to Dale in Worcester, who I think is sharing my view of the holiday period. Dale, welcome to Boston Public Radio.
Hi, Dale.
Hi. So my wife and I were not near our families living here in New England, and what we've gotten to doing is we actually like the idea of trying to do the 12 days of Christmas and maybe start on Christmas, but run all the way through Three Kings Day on January 6th. And our sense is it just gives us a lot more time to really enjoy, people and the holiday as a whole, and it takes, at least for us, some of the stress off of having everything happen on one day. So, yeah, that's been a nice way for us to change our thought process.
Dale, I am totally with you on that, and I have tried for years to make that happen. And one of our favorite stories is we went to visit a family member after Christmas, like December 26th or to 27th, because, again, to me, it's the whole holiday season. Whatever holiday you're celebrating, it's the season. It's not ending on the day of the last day of the holiday. And we showed up and they had totally de-Christmased the house. The tree was gone, the lights were gone, all the presents were put away, and they were like exhausted, like, oh, what are you doing here? And it's like, oh, okay, well, we won't do this again. But I'm with you, Dale, 100%.
I'm with you too, because it reminds me of the vacation thing. I think where we all recognize it takes at least 3 days to just come down off of work and everything to just start to relax. And I think the holidays are the same. So yes, 3 days into your 12 days of Christmas, and then you can start to relax. And then it's just a kind of nice little merry roll that you have.
I like that, a merry roll.
Going along.
All right, Dale, thanks for calling. Happy holidays to you. Giuliano, is that how I say it? In Worcester, he's texted us. They've texted us. My partner and I are a queer couple, and the family dynamics can be stressful this year. We are going to Provincetown over New Year's to make some time for ourselves and experience joy around other queer folks. Obviously, the stresses that all families have in different dynamics and finding your community and your safe space where you can be is also essential, I think, to the holidays. For years, we would go to Ptown for New Year's Eve because it's so great. That it's, I wouldn't call it a shoulder season because that would be not appropriate, but just the people who are there by choosing to be there, going to Nappies, to have some great Portuguese soup, and just people who are choosing to be there. I wish you the happy holiday there. That's a great idea.
And there's also something just about going to the end of the world.
Yes.
Just the journey that it takes to get there, and then you can relax because literally there's nowhere else to go after
exactly.
that point.
We've come to the end of the United States.
Our number is Our number is 877-301-8970. By the way, as I feel like we're bringing about the holiday cheer because at least here in Boston, I don't know the rest of the state, but the sun is coming out.
People are coming to the library. Boylston Street is getting lively. I think
the rain has stopped.
We're like the little elves bringing the cheer.
We're just doing away with that storm. Let's go to our next call from Provincetown, actually, coincidentally, from Benna. Hi there.
Hi. Actually, it's funny. I was listening to the message. So I'm Benna. I'm from Provincetown. There's a little bit of a backstory about my Christmas. I'm Muslim from Kosovo. I grew up Muslim, and my husband is Greek Orthodox from Montreal. And we both live in Provincetown, and we have a restaurant, and we don't have our family here. So what we do is we don't do Christmas presents, but we close the restaurant on Christmas, and we get together, and we eat, and we enjoy each other's company because we don't get to see each other much during the rest of the year being in restaurants. But it is my favorite holiday. So that's my Christmas story.
What's your restaurant? Which restaurant is it, Benna?
It is called 1620 Brew House.
definitely.
It is. I think you talked about nappies, so you must know Provincetown a little bit. We are right across the street from the post office.
Great. That's great. You know, it reminds me of I knew a family an Israeli family who was here short term, and they really wanted to totally experience what Christmas was like. And it was such a fun, just from a cultural standpoint, going with them to get a tree and decorating the whole thing and doing some traditions. And what I loved about it at the end, they're like, okay, we're all set. We don't need to do that again.
One and done.
But it was just like, looking at it from just the cultural experience of what the season can be about for some people is great. Thanks for sharing that with us. I hope you enjoy your day.
Yeah, and day off, more importantly.
With your loved one.
By the way, we have some clarification about the movie Violent Night.
Oh,
it's not just a Santa suit, apparently. It's the real Santa. That's even worse.
Well, we don't know what really happens the other 364 days of the year with Santa. He could be just up there.
Only good things happen, Sue O'Connell. I have no idea what you're trying to suggest. Only great things happen.
Here's Lisa from Westwood who texted us, on the last 12 Christmases, I volunteered at the MSPCA Angel. Since I'm Jewish, I have the, quote, day off, end quote, and helping the incredibly hardworking staff there makes it a special day for me. Meow, Catsmas. I love that.
That's great. I think we have time for one more call. We'll go to Gina in Waltham. Hi, Gina. Happy holidays.
Hey, hi guys. Happy holidays. Thanks for taking my call. Sue's recollection about going to Provincetown triggered a great memory for me. Thank you, Sue.
Good. Whenever you say trigger, I get a little nervous, so that's good that it's a good memory.
We used to live out there in Wellfleet, and so oftentimes, because winter can be very boring in, that part of the world, we would actually come to Boston and stay at the Charles Hotel, treat ourselves to a really nice room and really good room service, and they used to have a little ice skating rink outside that the kids loved, and then you could just come right in the building for hot chocolate. It was such a wonderful escape for a few days.
That's a great idea. The traveling just for a night, even though it's not too far away, also the kids, especially if you're not traveling all the time, it's such a great memory for them to have this special feeling of being in a hotel and getting hot chocolate and ordering a little room service. Gina, thanks so much for sharing that with us. A happy holiday to you.
Happy.
All right.
And going away is nice, too. Maria from Marblehead writes, just returned from 2 weeks in Italy, where not only was it spectacularly beautiful because of the decorations, but the food specialties this time of year were fantastic. And she says for the first time in many years, she felt the reason for the season. It was beautiful and wonderful just to be on her own for the 2 weeks and just drink it all in.
All right. Well, we're getting lots of good messages here on the text, and it's good to hear everyone is carving out their own little happy holiday for themselves, regardless of how they approach it. We're going to come back and talk more holiday stuff at the end of the show, so stand by if we didn't get to you. Thanks for everyone for calling and texting. Look, coming up, another week, another disgusting corporate-sponsored food, quote-unquote, trend. Last week, it was Pilk, Pepsi and milk. This week, Hellman's mayo-nog. Food policy analyst Corby Kummer is here to explain why anyone besides the marketing department would ever drink this. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH.
This is Oedipus, and we have a special Christmas Eve plan this year on GBH. A 10-hour Christmas block with Celtic jazz and my songs of peace, love, and understanding. Celtic at 3.
I'm Brandon Donovan.
Jazz at 6.
I'm Al Davis.
And my unique collection of songs from every genre heard nowhere else at 8 until 1 a.m. Christmas morning. I'll be live in the studio with you to welcome Christmas, only on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you and the Office of the Massachusetts State Treasurer. The Unclaimed Property Division is holding unclaimed funds for the citizens and businesses of the Commonwealth. You can see if you have unclaimed money at findmassmoney.com. And Avangrid, a clean energy company committed to accelerating Massachusetts' climate goals of building solutions for climate change by investing in offshore wind and hydroelectric power. Learn more at avangrid.com.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. I'm Jared Bowen here with Sue O'Connell. We're live at the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. We're joined now by Corby Kummer. Corby is the Executive Director of the Food and Society Policy Program at the Aspen Institute, a Senior Editor at The Atlantic, and a Senior Lecturer at the Tufts Friedman School of Nutrition, Science, and Policy. Hi there. Happy holidays, Corby.
Hi, Jared and Sue. It's so nice to be here
I
in
know,
person.
It's so great to see you. It's just it's so exciting.
It's a
you
treat.
know, it's also because I've been watching you on Zoom, so I feel like you're a real celebrity now. You know, you've been on
right.
TV.
Yeah, that's
you know,
right.
so that's how it is.
That's what makes somebody a celeb.
That's what it is. So, Corby, let's talk about hamburgers. You know, there's a lot of reasons why we should reduce or eliminate the hamburger from our diet, and the New York Times is weighing into that with an opinion piece as to why the burger is not only perhaps bad for us, but also is contributing, and you've talked about this before, to the climate crisis. You know, we're watching behind us the CNN news of the weather crisis across the country. They were just talking about what they need to do to keep the cows alive during this, you know, both from a food perspective, a business perspective, but how many calories they need to consume in order to live through this storm, which was also surprising to me. Why, do you agree with the New York Times that we should put down the burger, why it's really time?
Oh, yeah. I think we've got to start moving away from eating beef, whatever it takes. If it's a nice plant-based alternative like Beyond Meat burgers, or you just stop eating beef and burgers, it's the most important step you yourself can take to help halt climate change. It's not just the amount of calories they need, it's the amount of water it takes and the land. It's the agricultural land that we can't keep clearing for animals, and we have to dedicate it to crops that we can eat, which are much more efficient use of land per acre and much more efficient use of water. So in the Times, no one wants to say put down that burger, but we really should. There's a piece by the excellent writer Michael Grunwald, who has a climate change, a Climavore podcast, which is hugely popular. It was around the new climate change conference. Where was it? Montreal, COP15. That it just placed agriculture way, way down in its list of recommendations because people resist it. But it's hugely important. It's way, way up in the steps you can take to reduce climate change and these kinds of weathers that we're seeing on the TV screen around us. You know, it's like there was a ridiculed diet that was based on exactly these findings. Eat Lancet. So Lancet, the great medical magazine in England, and Eat, which is a forum based in Sweden, but international, based on climate change and agriculture. And they were saying one burger a week, depending on where you live and how much agriculture land it takes. It was so ridiculed, but that idea has not gone away. And we're clearing rainforest. We're stopping biodiversity. That's what's going to happen. And it's not just us, frankly. It's the developing world, it's China and India, which have hugely increased appetites for meat because they have increased income, and that's what signifies you have made it.
You know,
and so what's the solution here? It's a tough ask, as we know, to have people stop eating meat.
It's kind of an impossible ask. It's that people eat less beef, especially. Beef is the baddie in all of the meat, but you know, chicken. Oh God, he had such a good line, which was when we eat cows, chickens, and other livestock, we might as well be eating macaws, jaguars, and other endangered species. The inconvenient truth, because that's how much it's endangering the land where those animals can live. So yes, it's a very tough ask, but stop eating as much beef, make it a really special occasion once a week or once a month, eat other kinds of meat, and eat more beans. That's what nobody wants to do. Nobody wants to eat more vegetables, but that's what's really going to help.
In our family, we had a health issue that required diets be changed. And, you know, we can all talk a good game about how I've obviously been concerned about the climate. I'm obviously concerned about these things, but we ate, you know, meat on a regular basis. And over the past 4 years, we have really moved to a household where we are thinking strongly when we choose a meal as to how much of how animal products are involved in the meal, and really just trying to be mindful of that. And that doesn't mean we're not eating meat. It means that when we go to a restaurant, like last year, we went for our holiday meal after we went to the Nutcracker on Christmas Eve, and I ordered a steak, and it was the best steak I have ever eaten because I hadn't had a steak all year, and so the appreciation of it really sort of elevates the experience of when you choose to have it. But it is small steps. It's, do I have to have an egg with breakfast? Can I just have oatmeal, and some peanut butter with it? For lunch, can I make a decision that haven't quite made the bean jump yet, gotta say honestly, but can I eat more vegetables for lunch rather than choosing a chicken salad?
You are now, this is live experience, what we call lived experience in the food policy biz. So this is a very persuasive argument you're making. It's all the more special. But it's the idea that prices should be way, way elevated for the amount of externalities, as we also say in the food policy biz, all the costs you don't see that go in, especially of clear-cutting land in the Amazon, destroying rainforests for agriculture, and people will do it unless there are international laws saying you can't clear this land, you're going to be fined, you're going to be docked. It's happening all around us.
So, perfect segue. If we're trying to encourage people to eat less meat or not eat meat at all, and one thing you can shift to are vegetables, but we're finding that even when we make it easy to eat vegetables, even when it's advantageous and or cheaper to eat vegetables, people don't want to do it?
Because I always pay attention to writers. So Michael Grunwald, who just wrote that great piece at the Times we were talking about, does his Climavores podcast with Tamar Haspel, who's a great columnist who's been on this show, and she lives in Massachusetts, but it's for the Washington Post. She always has these contrarian, inconvenient truth arguments, and one of them is, you think you're doing great by eating more vegetables, but nobody likes vegetables. You may like vegetables, you think you're doing great, but they take up a tremendous amount of water, and what doesn't take up water are beans and stuff that we don't particularly want to eat. In her case, it's not just a scolding, I'm going to put my glasses on and rap you on the knuckles in grammar school argument. It is saying that sophisticates who are food policy and right-minded people often think that if the U.S. cut out its agricultural subsidies to huge crops like corn for high fructose corn syrup, then we'd all eat more vegetables because the price would come down. And her inconvenient truth, which my colleague at Tufts Friedman, Will Masters, reinforces really succinctly in this Washington Post column, is people aren't price sensitive when it comes to vegetables. They just don't want to eat them. So even if it came down pennies per pound for broccoli, which is the very most it would if all of the subsidies shifted to vegetables, which are horribly called specialty crops by the United States Department of Agriculture, as if nobody really wants vegetables. Well, sadly, that is the truth. They don't want vegetables. But changing the subsidy system isn't going to make people eat more vegetables.
Do we think that's true, by the way? That people really don't like vegetables?
I do. Well, I'll be honest. I don't like vegetables.
Really?
See, there you are.
I like potatoes. But I force myself to eat vegetables, and in this article, to point to the cost issue, in our household we have an ongoing battle versus fresh vegetables versus frozen vegetables, because there's nothing I hate more than wasting food, right? And you buy that bunch of broccoli and it sits in that crisper, and if you don't eat it soon enough, and I know from Corby how long it's taken to get to my shelf, so I know the time so I'll buy frozen vegetables because it's cost efficient and they last, and there's a minuscule difference to me taste-wise for my palate. But we dress them up like crazy because I don't like vegetables, but I eat them.
Good for you. You see, this is just such a great lived experience.
Yay.
Let me put in a huge plug for frozen vegetables.
Yes.
So they are often fresher and sweeter because they're frozen much closer to the field.
Yep.
Remember those
I
old
learned that from
green
you.
giant arguments? Why, thank you. They're, as Tamar Haspel points out in the Post, an average of $1.50 a pound. They're much cheaper than fresh, and you can refreeze them. They won't be so great, but you can refreeze them. You can only defrost the amount that you want from the big bag you get. And I strongly believe in frozen green beans and frozen peas. Frozen peas are just better.
Yep.
They're always sweeter. But also frozen green beans, they're convenient. You can do whatever you want. They're cheap. So I completely believe in frozen vegetables.
I'm bringing this home because, I also recently told my daughter I didn't know until I was about 10 that spinach didn't come in a can. But that's something from the 1960s. But it still works.
Yeah.
So there you go. So switching from our vegetable-based conversation to our hog-based conversation, of course, the holidays bring all sorts of specialty and beloved meals that many of our cultures, our religions, our communities eat. What is the and I was so fascinated by this because I didn't quite, to your point about when you've arrived and what you get to eat. Talk about the tradition of the hog when it comes to the Christmas experience.
Well, a whole pig roast is the sign of festivity in many, many cultures, in many, many countries, especially Central and South America, Mexico, and in the case of an article in the Times, Cuba, Dominican Republic, and Puerto Rico, where pork is marinated in mojo, citrus juice marinated with garlic and oregano, slowly cooked for hours in an oven or a roasting box or over a fire. This focused on a guy who came with his family from Cuba when he was 16 to Florida and started a pig slaughtering business, and he's now 91 and he refuses to retire. He tried it for a week and it didn't agree with him. Only when an inspector told him when he was in his late 80s, he's now 91, that it was dangerous for him, and maybe for the hogs, he didn't say, to stop this slaughtering business. He still runs the business. And it's hard for him to fill the orders in time for Christmas. But it is a great tradition. And, again, the special occasion every so often, I think it's wonderful. And if I go to a foodie gathering in the South, generally it's going to be an overnight pig roast that is going to be the focus of the whole day and the whole weekend for us to watch, and it's sort of like a competition. The best part of the piece, which I hope you noticed, is he'd been married 5 times and said he loved all of his wives.
Yeah.
Well, the question is, did they love him? I think it's really the
that's
question
so
that we're
good.
begging
They didn't have a chance to ask that.
to go follow up and ask them.
All right, so Corby, Kummer, when I was with you last week, I think it was, we were talking about Pilk, which is Pepsi and milk.
Obviously, first of all, Laverne and Shirley, did that come up? I didn't get to hear you. Okay,
it did
go
come
ahead,
up.
carry on.
And apparently, Penny Marshall, it wasn't just Shirley, but Penny Marshall herself, who of course played
weighed in,
Shirley,
yeah.
she loved Pilk,
Yep.
Pepsi and milk. So we're going to move from Pilk to, I don't even know what you would call this, but I guess it's mayo nog.
I would call it vile.
Well, we're not going to try it. Jamie, our producer, did not go out and buy the
Jamie, come
mixings for us today. Maybe he doesn't want us intoxicated by the end of the show.
Is there alcohol
But
in it? Is there alcohol
Yeah,
in
there
it?
is.
Wow, well,
So-
that makes
Right.
it better.
Okay.
But so this is eggnog with mayonnaise.
So, of course, eggnog has eggs in it. And you're supposed to beat the whites and froth them. And that's part of the whole idea of these huge alcohol-filled concoctions with a ton of sugar is that the sugar, the froth, the cream make you not realize that you're getting yourself sloshed really fast.
Yeah.
And so the whole idea is mask the effects of the alcohol so that you can get drunk as quickly as possible and, pretend you're just being festive. I'm cynical about this. But not as cynical as I am about Hellman's saying a quarter cup of mayonnaise.
Oh, man.
Okay,
But
so
this
the
is being
thing
served
is,
in bars, too.
Yeah.
Sorry?
This is being served in bars, too. Sorry to jump into your
No,
answer.
I can't say that it doesn't make sense from a culinary standpoint because the eggs are emulsified in mayonnaise. They're going to help the consistency. What you want is something very creamy in an eggnog. This is an easy, fast way of getting it. My sister is right over here behind the microphones, and she will remember that a big party dish that our mother made was chicken in a mayonnaise sauce because everyone thought it was a cream-based sauce.
She's giving a huge thumbs up, by the way.
Right, and it was called Chicken Celeste. And I remember when I was in college and I asked her for the recipe, she said, I don't give this out to many people, but seeing as we're related, I will, because it was a great secret ingredient. It was the days when people wouldn't actually tell others how to make recipes. But the idea is it's a very fast way of getting an emulsified creamy texture. Mayonnaise cakes, for example, are a big tradition. I hate eating mayonnaise, and so I don't have any desire to have it raw mixed into a drink. But from a culinary standpoint, it makes some sense. The thing is, it's got also, salt and vinegar in it, so it's got these other condiment flavors that you might not particularly like. But as with Pilk, they spent a lot of money on marketing it, and here we are giving them airtime.
Yep.
We like to experiment during the holidays,
my
too.
brother worked in a mayonnaise factory for a day, and that was it. Then he could never,
because of what he saw?
No, not necessarily that. Just that you think of these things that you eat as one thing, and then you see how they're made, and it ruined eggs for him for a long time. It was just sort of the process of it all. It was a process. Obviously, it was a local process company, but I always think about he's a bit older than I am, so I had never thought about where mayonnaise came from. What it's made from, what the elements of it are.
But do you suppose that any other kind of food would spoil him for it? Watching it close up?
Yeah, no, I think that I think there's always that thing of when you're immersed in something, it changes. For some, it would change how you perceive it. I was also thinking about the pig conversation. In the South End, there was a restaurant maybe 20 years ago who decided to smoke a pig. And put the smoker out on the sidewalk, and you thought there was going to be, a complete protest, even though the restaurant was very popular and all the people protesting would eat in the restaurant. But the idea that this is where it comes from sometimes, that connection of what we're actually eating, that I think we miss in our popular culture.
If you eat meat and pork, it is very irresistible.
Yep.
I want to go back to something you just said. Back in the days where people didn't give out their recipes.
Yeah.
Do you think that does not happen now? We'll probably get into this again because I know Callie Crossley is coming on right after you, and
we'll be asking
love
her
to take
for
every
recipes.
opportunity to talk about my fabulous deviled eggs, and I will not give
here we
out the
go.
recipe to my fabulous deviled eggs.
But I think that's a thing of a previous generation, and I would be really interested in Callie's opinion of this. Everything is so widely available online now, and people take such pride in sharing what they have evolved and what they really like, that it would surprise me if there was the same competitive tradition. And as my sister would say, women's roles have changed, and they are not competing for dinner parties anymore. They're in the workplace, they're making careers, and so this is not integral to their identity, but Jared, it is apparently integral to yours.
Well, I want people to have a very singular. We'll ask Callie when she comes on. I can see her shaking her head right now. So we'll ask Callie if she hands out her recipe. But I want people to have a very singular experience when they come to my house.
My mother's sour cream cookies, her holiday sour cream cookies, which she left me in her will the recipe, and it's not correct.
Ooh.
She left out how much vanilla you put in. And it's a batter I would eat. I've eaten it every year. She'd only make it once a year because it's difficult to make. The dough is difficult to deal with. And she'd only make it once a year, and my brother and I would eat until we were stuffed and demand them for our birthday, and she would say no. And we have the recipe, and every year I have to, for 20 years now, I've been tinkering to find the right amount of vanilla to put in it.
But do you suppose it was deliberate?
Oh, it was absolutely deliberate. Absolutely.
And after 20 years, you still don't?
No, because it's tough. I'm always going back to last year to my childhood taste buds, because you taste it raw, of course, which of course you shouldn't do, warning. But that's how I can tell how much vanilla we have in it. My daughter's involved in it now. We have a whole list of how many tablespoons of vanilla we have put in it based on the amount.
Okay, that's it. I mean, our overly cooking concerned mother would always make extensive notes on each variation in a recipe.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that you were doing that,
Yes.
so you can try a new variation this year.
Yeah, we will. We have to.
And
All right.
did you bring any in today?
We haven't. We're late making them.
No excuse.
I know. You're right. I'm sorry.
I brought you cookies.
Oh, you did?
True. From Linzer Cookies from Flour Bake.
I am both looking. I've suddenly gone to Corby for affirmation and for discipline. This has really moved into. I'm happy when he's praising me.
So something to do.
Oh yes.
We all love to have our New Year's resolutions, right? And if you decide that this is the year that you want to have a career departure and become a baker, there's the best opportunity for you right here at Boston University.
I might be doing it.
Really?
This is a fabulous baking course. 14 weeks professional pastry arts program at BU's Metropolitan College programs in food and wine. I used to teach at Metropolitan College, the old Cadillac showroom on Com Ave, right across from the BU Bridge, and it's a
It's now
fantastic premises.
It's now where the arts programming
right,
and
and I
art
don't
gallery
know where
is.
Metropolitan College is now because it's been so fabulously renovated. But this is 14 weeks modeled on their culinary program. Huge price tag. I'm going to tell you right now, it's $14,200. But the idea is for professional change and career change. Starts on January 19th, only offered this spring semester. And some of the bakers are Jim Dodge, nationally respected pastry chef, James Beard Award winner, director of programs at Bon Appetit. He's like a national culinary legend who has devoted his career mostly to culinary education, including in Boston. So he's a fantastic educator. Bill Yassis, former White House executive pastry chef. It's not only the credit, he's an active teacher across the East Coast, so he's a big deal. And then local pastry experts, including Lauren Moran of Hamilton's Honeycomb, which I don't know, the fabulous Maury Kilpatrick of Sofra Bakery and Cafe in Cambridge, her chocolate baklava, it just makes me salivate thinking of it, and Thiago Silva of Salt Patisserie in Newton. The idea is these are fantastic professionals, and they'll make you more confident, Sue, in really figuring out breaking the code of your mother's sour cream recipe. But I can't imagine anything more fun or rewarding than that course.
That sounds great.
And we should mention that came from Ann Kurland in the Globe. I saw her recently. I was telling her how much I love the piece that she has every Wednesday, drawing our attention to new things, whether it's things like this or cooking devices, utensils. She's great.
Okay, so here's our last minute Christmas gift suggestion for someone extremely extravagant. Give somebody that course.
That sounds like a great idea. I'm definitely going to consider that because I'm not done doing this next year. I'm only kidding, just joking. All right. So, Corby, as we wrap up here, we eat out a lot in my family, and the challenges that we've had here in the United States regarding wait staff and managers, and we have tried to be as totally patient as humanly possible. Also understanding the drop in our immigration over the past 6 years of people who work in restaurants and come here and choose to work in restaurants. And in the UK, it seems like Brexit, according to this article in the New York Times, Brexit is really devastating the wait staff supply, if you will, in the UK. Is that right?
Yeah, it's one of these amazing, horrible effects of Brexit, which I personally think was one of the great disasters of the past 15 years. One of them is that it's so hard to hire temporary help that can come in from Italy especially. So if you spent time in London, really in any time before Brexit, you would know that almost the entire wait staff was Italian, no matter what the restaurant was. In England, they would come, they would learn English, they would get Italian girlfriends or boyfriends for the time that they were there for a few months, and they'd learn English and they'd go home. And, it was great service, it was fun. Also, France and Greece and Spain, these were all countries and now it's much harder for these temporary visas. So I believe in, one answer is making it a professional career that always has benefits, and that's the tough step for restaurants struggling to survive post-pandemic.
We'll have to leave it there, Corby. Thanks so much. Happy holidays,
and
of course, at the Food and Society Policy Program at Aspen Institute. Coming up, GBH's Callie Crossley discusses Senate Republicans blocking the Crown Act, which would have explicitly banned hair discrimination. Plus, George Santos. We can't stop talking about him. You'll learn more about that coming up on Boston Public Radio 89.7. Thank you, Corby, so much. Happy holidays to you. GBH.
You're listening to Boston Public Radio with Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan. Just ahead, more smart conversation about what's going on in our community. That's right after an NPR news break, here on GBH News 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you and members of the GBH Champions and Beacon Circles. These most generous annual contributors lead the way in sustaining GBH as a public media resource available and free to all. Learn more at gbh.org/support. Multi-course dinners are a staple of the holidays, so get ready to feast on a special block of Julia Child's finest meals. See Julia in action on a marathon of The French Chef, starting Saturday morning at 11 on GBH2.
I'm Investigations and Impact editor Paul Singer, and you and I are listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston, online at gbhnews.org. GBH News with NPR. What matters to you?
I'm Jared Bowen in for Marjorie Egan, live at the Boston Public Library. Ahead on Boston Public Radio, Maurice Emanuel Parent and Tamika Marie Bridwell are here to discuss the Front Porch Arts Collective's hilarious new play, Chicken and Biscuits. After 6 years getting a new theater company off the ground, this is their first solo-produced show, and it's a must-see.
I'm Sue O'Connell in for Jim Browdy. Then D.T. Max's latest book, Finale, is an intimate portrait of the late Steven Sondheim, told through a series of interviews from the last years of his life. D.T. Max joins us to discuss. And Cambridge native and Boston Calling alum Miranda Ray is our performer for Live Music Friday. It's all ahead on Boston Public Radio 89.7 GBH.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Barbara Klein. A so-called bomb cyclone weather system is moving across the eastern two-thirds of the country, including eastern Kentucky, where some residents are still displaced from catastrophic flooding nearly 5 months ago. Corinne Boyer of member station WEKU reports more than 300 people still live in trailers throughout the region, and about 50 remain sheltered in state parks.
Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear announced an additional death from the flooding, bringing the death toll to 44. Beshear has declared a state of emergency and says making sure people stay warm in travel trailers is a priority.
Doing everything we can to further weatherize those travel trailers and to make sure they have enough propane.
State parks and warming centers will serve as shelters across the state. For NPR News, I'm Corinne Boyer in Paris, Kentucky.
The House of Representatives is debating a nearly $1.7 trillion government spending bill ahead of a vote today. It cleared the Senate yesterday after lawmakers reached a compromise following weeks of negotiations. But as NPR's Julia Simon reports, the bill does not deliver on President Biden's promises of international climate aid.
Last month at the climate conference in Egypt, Biden made a pledge that by 2024, the U.S. would be giving $11 billion a year in climate aid to developing nations. The U.S. is the largest historical emitter of planet-warming pollution. Developing nations have contributed the least pollution, but they're suffering some of the worst consequences of climate change. The aid would help countries adapt to changes already underway and better prepare for future threats. Now, Congress is only pledging about $1 billion, less than a tenth of what Biden asked for. Julia Simon, NPR News.
A highly contagious subvariant of the coronavirus, called XBB, has jumped to 18% of national cases, and the CDC says it accounts for more than 50% of COVID-19 cases in the Northeast. This as people are gathering for the holidays. White House COVID response coordinator Dr. Ashish Jha is encouraging people to be prepared.
The number one thing that we can all do to make sure that we are gathering safely is being up to date on our vaccines. Both flu and COVID, we have terrific vaccines. They've both been updated this year.
He says if you get vaccinated now, you'll get some protection in about a week. The ongoing increase in consumer prices is slowing. The Commerce Department reports they rose 5.5% in November over the year before. That's the smallest increase since October of 2021. Still, core inflation remains high at 4.7% over last year. This is NPR News.
Good afternoon from the GBH Radio Newsroom in Boston. I'm Henry Santoro in studio today. A group of climate activists stopped a coal train in Westford, Mass. yesterday. That train was headed for Bow, New Hampshire, home of New England's last running coal-fired power plant. After that train was stopped, two activists locked themselves to the tracks. One of them was Boston University professor Nathan Phillips.
The people that are subjected to the health harms of burning coal, frontline communities like there in Bow and elsewhere, are being subjected to an injustice. But so are the workers, and that includes the rail workers who are not being treated fairly.
Phillips and other activists were arrested, but those charges have already been dropped. Target is recalling some 204,000 of its Pillow Fort weighted blankets due to a possible fatal risk of asphyxiation for children. The U.S. Consumer Protection Safety Commission says 2 North Carolina girls, 4 and 6 years old, died while getting trapped under the blanket this past April. The CPSC and Target made a joint statement yesterday alerting consumers of the recall, adding that children can become entrapped inside the weighted blankets by unzipping and crawling inside them. The incident in April happened at Camp Lejeune in North Carolina. Target has since received 4 reports of children becoming entrapped in these weighted blankets, including the 2 fatalities. Make sure that if you've got a blanket, don't put that under the Christmas tree this year. Bruins in New Jersey tonight. Celtics host the Timberwolves at the Garden. We're at 57 degrees, and it's pretty nasty out there.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Mattress Firm, dedicated to providing personalized service with the goal of helping people sleep well so they can live well. Customers can shop their range of products in-store or online at mattressfirm.com.
I'm Henry Santoro, GBH News 89.7.
You're right there, Jared. Everything all right?
I'm fine. We're careening to the end of the holiday break here, and so we're all having a really good time. Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. We're live at the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. I'm Jared Bowen, here with Sue O'Connell, and we're joined now by GBH's Callie Crossley. She's the host of Under the Radar with Callie Crossley, which you can catch Sunday nights right here on 89.7 at 6 o'clock. She's also the host of Basic Black, which airs Fridays at 7:30. And you can hear her Callie commentaries on Mondays for GBH's Morning Edition. And you can see her live not only here at the library, but where tonight, Callie?
Oh, I'm at the Boston Pops. 'Twas the night before Christmas. All through the house. Not a creature was stirring. Not even a mouse.
Oh, somebody has been rehearsing. Well, welcome, Callie.
All right, Callie. Let's weigh in on this this recipe brouhaha that we have brought up with Corby Kummer. Right. I know that it might be generational, but I'm seeing younger generations also saying, no, you can't have my recipe. Although there's a lot of bragging, a lot of Instagramming. I believe that some of these TikTok recipes, which we have tried over the years, I believe they hold back as well. I don't think they're giving all of their ingredients as
Probably
well.
Not.
So where are you on this?
No.
so you're Team Jared on this.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, now I just did a holiday punch for our little holiday hang, and that's a recipe. It's Southern, and it kind of, you can mix and match the ingredients of it. So people ask me for the recipe, I'm happy to send that one because I don't have a proprietary thing on it. It's, you could probably look it up and get various variations, but I sent them the one that I use, so that's fine. But for certain family recipes, no.
No. What about within your family? What about...
Yes, my sister has already said to my niece and nephew, you don't have to make it, but you better not tell anybody.
Yeah.
So they're like, okay.
Okay. Hardcore. Jared's in agreement on this?
I'm with you. Again, singular experience. You'll never have them anywhere else.
There you go. Yeah.
When I go, they go with me.
Well, maybe.
I don't mind making it for other people.
Of course.
Right. And as you know, when I do my famous secret barbecue sauce, I do it with the shades drawn by myself, and I separate my garbage and deposit it in 2 different places because, any of you might be trying to suss out what's in it.
Wow.
Okay. I'll just stand next to her and let my iPhone suggest ingredients to me because that's what's next, right? I'll stand there and the iPhone will serve up. I'll be going down the aisles. They'll say, hey, how about some brown sugar? Okay,
so
I'll take some of that.
And when the Select Congressional Committee comes after you, Callie Crossley, they're never going to take you down.
That is right.
All right,
that is correct.
Let's talk, as we moved on to politics here, Jared, oh God, Callie, I can't get enough of this story. It is terrible.
It's horrible.
It is terrible, but I can't get enough of it. Republican Representative-elect George Santos has, I don't even know where to begin. I asked our colleagues here to double check for any breaking news on this Santos character who beat the Democrat in the primary, and now everyone is hand-wringing because the New York Times didn't do an expose in time. The Democrats didn't run enough opposition research to show. It is allegedly, allegedly he has lied about just
everything.
About everything. What's going on here?
Well, I'm shocked because he's lied about, apparently, allegedly, as we must all say, because, this is what the Times has uncovered, where he worked, where he went to school, how much money he has, and his ethnic background. And so the ethnic background and the fact that he apparently has lied about having employees that were at the Pulse nightclub and were killed seem to me to be over. I mean, I just don't understand that. Okay, people are accustomed to people embellishing some of their. So I think if he had embellished some of this stuff around the edges, people would be mad, but, it wouldn't be this. But along every step of the way that the Times has investigated, no one knows. So just to be clear, so people are not listening saying, well, they had an agenda against him because he's a Republican guy who is a big Trump supporter. They went back to every place he said he worked. The people were like, he never worked here. We have no record of it. We have no record of his work, of his being enrolled at Baruch College. And in fact, to add insult to injury, he was involved in some illegal kerfuffle in Brazil at the time. So he couldn't have been in two places at once at the time that he said he was at Baruch College. And that is on the records, that little criminal thing that happened. There's nothing to be. I don't know what you say. By the way, the latest news is that he is making a statement next week. He says he's answering all the questions.
Well, he's going to have a lot of questions. He's going to have to. He also said he had a tax-exempt organization, which he didn't. There's some confusion about who he's married to.
They said
and when he was married to.
He said he was very, very wealthy, and then he was evicted or near evicted twice.
And that he had ancestors who fled the persecution of the Jews and the Holocaust.
Yep,
I mean, the depths of the lies of this man. But this is where it gets so interesting, the fact that there does seem somewhere there's money.
Right.
Because he was able to hold this campaign. He was able to fund, it looks like, I guess we should say allegedly before all of this, allegedly he was able to fund a lot of his own campaign. So somewhere there's money here.
And the Brooks Brothers suits. They said he lived well as a candidate. He flew around on travel. So, listen, I'm just going to put this out there. People take it like you want to. His victory gives a 4-person majority to the Republicans in the House. So you can assume there'd be a lot of money from somebody to want to ensure that happened. And maybe somebody helped him in those ways to come across as he did.
And we certainly fell down as journalists. I said it's the collective we
but
for the fact that there wasn't any
here. Can you imagine that happening in Massachusetts?
Well, it's a fair question. It's a good question.
You mean to learn all this after the fact?
No, that every candidate who announces if there's anything in their past. I mean, I don't know that we've ever been surprised in Massachusetts as journalists as something that comes. Maybe we couldn't prove it. Maybe it was a rumor. Maybe you couldn't get anyone to talk on the record about it. Maybe it didn't seem like a big deal, but it turned out to be a big deal. But to have someone with this many inconsistencies in their resume running for office, what breaks down on the Democratic side, on the Republican side? Because if he actually turns out that he lied on his disclosure forms, we don't know what's going to happen to him. So he may not move forward.
Well, he's an outsider. Isn't that part of this? So if you're in government, but everybody's got to get in at some point. But if you're in government, people will find out your history. But maybe because he's come as an outsider, that's not to excuse it.
Well, here's a couple of things. There are 2 things that he did. Your reference one is what he put down on some of these disclosure forms. One of those is a crime.
Right.
So now that could put you out. But let's assume he lied about everything. He cannot prove, it all turns out that he did lie about all of this stuff. He can still be seated.
Right.
That is not reason for him to be extricated from the House. So everybody's good unless one of these other things that he did to lie with regard to some kind of disclosure crosses the line into a crime area.
All right.
So I'm going to guess that if somebody is supporting him this way with this much money and whatever, they would be careful enough to know exactly what to do and what not to do. So I'm going to say that man's going to be sitting in Congress. And by the way, at this point, we all want to know, well, who is he really?
Yeah.
Just
now it's fascinating.
Yeah, and like, who is he really for the? And I think I just. When he said he had employees at the Pulse nightclub, come on,
because
guy.
the part of this that's so striking to me is that it's not so much to me a con, it is a dysfunction, to allegedly lie to the degree that he would be lying on things that are all, you can check them, and you wouldn't think to check. If I said I lost colleagues in the Pulse nightclub shooting, you may not think to check that, because why would I say that publicly if it wasn't true?
Well, because it's such a horrible thing to,
So it's just, I'm just fascinated by it at all.
But no, we've had these, huge people that we've come to know about. Who's the guy that was the big hoaxer that pretended he knew the recluse and was going to write a book about him?
Here we go. This is going to be one of those shows where we keep trying to come up with the proper.
Remember Clark Rockefeller? That was
Clark Rockefeller.
He was small potatoes to that guy. Yes, you know what I'm talking about.
There you go. And then we have the whole Housewives franchise.
Yeah,
basically.
And Theranos, and the list goes on and on.
I mean, so people they feel very confident, I guess, to be able to. I would be so afraid that somebody would out me at any second. So
that's why you would never do it, and that's why hopefully this is a rare example.
Well, and I just want to say this: he could have just embellished. Not that that's great, but he could have just embellished. You know what I mean? He didn't have to go to this length.
I've got some questions about your barbecue sauce now. I'm going to dig into that.
Yeah, you go right ahead.
That's really true.
You go right ahead.
So moving on, Callie Crossley, the Crown legislation.
Yes,
we talked a lot about it here locally because it passed in Massachusetts.
Yeah,
you can tell us what it is. All relating to hair.
Yeah.
But it just failed again nationally.
Well, Rand Paul, senator, blocked it specifically. This is called the Creating of a Respectful and Open World for Natural Hair Crown Act. Massachusetts was the 18th state. There are 19 states now that have passed it, and it really ensures that there's no discrimination against mostly black women, but there are other women who also have natural hair that has been discriminated against primarily in the workplace we're talking about now. And Rand Paul says there's plenty of laws on the books. We don't need this. But there's all kinds of lists of cases that have come up where women have been faced with losing their jobs or, being called unprofessional because you wear your hair naturally, you wear braids. In our own state, as we know, those young women were at school, Deanna and Maya Cook, and were told that, their hairstyle was against the school rules, and that the school now got rid of those rules, but it was after having to go fight for it. This is happening all the time. It's interesting that this piece says that there's research from Duke University, which I was unaware about, that shows that black women with natural hairstyles like braids, locks, and afros are considered less professional than black women with straight hair. I mean, this is just,
There's a couple of points, too, which folks may not get. One is that you mentioned the list of things. Also with laws, if you're not listed on the list of things, we call it the laundry list, then there's an exemption that means you don't count, right? So that's why when you see these non-discrimination laws, they say ethnicity, marital status, sexual orientation. Because if you're not on the list, then they could make the argument that you don't.
It's already covered. Right. That's what Rand Paul says. It's already covered. What are you talking about?
And the second point is it continues to happen. I have experienced people going into sales conferences saying to African American people who are salespeople that if they want to call on white sales agencies, they should consider straightening their hair, and that's as recently as 15 years ago. So there's no equivalent to that in the non-African American world. So that's why it's
ridiculous.
Important
and it's and people may also know that our representative Ayanna Pressley spoke out strongly about this, and she says this is not surprising that they did it, but everybody who's supporting this bill will try again. I guess I don't understand Rand Paul. It doesn't have anything to do with you.
You take a number.
I just don't. What does it have to do with you? Anyway? I don't get it.
All right, let's switch over to McDonald's. This is such a confusing story.
It really is. Kinda.
Part of what I know McDonald's. We just talked about not eating burgers and the challenges that McDonald's bring. But something else about McDonald's, which we often don't talk about, is McDonald's is before there were fast food restaurants everywhere, McDonald's was always able to be found in urban and communities of color. And McDonald's also, for a time, was one of the major hirers of folks of color in the United States, and has been a part of the culture and committed to the communities. What happened here, though, with this CEO and his comments regarding an incident that happened in Chicago?
So the CEO is Chris Kemzinski. And he sent a text message to Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot saying that because there was a child that was assaulted in an area where there was a McDonald's. So he essentially in his text said, with both the parents failed those kids, which I know is something you can't say. He sent this in a text, and it's even harder to fix. And so he immediately got backlash saying, hey, you're blaming the parents, you don't know them, you have no other information about the situation, and you've made some, racist assumptions about them. So there was big, brick brouhaha outside and inside. So they had a big inside town hall with all the employees. Everybody comes, and this guy Michael Peaster, who heretofore had managed, he was vice president of global safety, security, and intelligence. So pretty high up in the organization. I mean, this was Kemsky's guy, and he said, by all accounts, not angrily, but pointed out, gee, this is not what you want to say to parents. And I think you want to think about how we respond to situations like this. And there's some real issues going on here. And people in the audience applauded him. And then not he, but other people then decided to start up a movement to take a more aggressive stance against Kemsky at that point, but not he. So nothing happened to him right away. But then a year later, they terminated him, right after his promotion. He's like, huh? And said he wasn't doing a good job or whatever. That had not come up before. And so Peaster has said, clearly this is connected to the fact that I spoke out at this meeting, and then others decided to follow up after I spoke out and, come at the CEO, and he didn't like that. Yeah. And there, McDonald's is claiming, no, he just did a bad job. But that seems odd because he seemed to be doing a good job until after he said that. So we'll see what happens. There's some other evidence in here. There's a couple other lawsuits against McDonald's by folks of color. These are Vicky Guster-Hines and Dominica Neal, two black McDonald's executives sued for discrimination in January 2020. So it's building on some other stuff, which doesn't make Kemzinski or McDonald's look good. But that's where we are. So this is a very interesting and complicated lawsuit, and I'll be interested to say. I just want to point out also, McDonald's has long been known and may still be the largest franchisor to African Americans. So in other words, there are more African American franchisees of McDonald's, to my knowledge. But some other chains may have beat them by now, but I don't know.
You think so? He'd be paying more careful attention when someone tells him not to say something, you would think, even if one's thinking
it just seems odd to me.
All right, here's my favorite story of the week, because I have forever been using my hoodie, the hood of my hoodie, to take food, maybe into movie theaters. Also, when I'm leaving parties, I know our Representative Ayanna Pressley has been famous for having cookies in her bag. I don't think I'm talking out of school here. So Hefty, our friends at the bag people, the garbage bag people, they are selling, is this true? Are they selling
limited edition
a snack scarf to help you smuggle snacks out of parties?
Or
for Christmas
gives
parties.
new meaning to the words snack attack.
Yes, it does. They're lined. You can get a quart size or gallon size. And so why go over to the buffet table and then, put enough for you to eat right then and then pile up that other little plate and then search around for whatever saran wrap you can. This just goes right into the little pocket. It looks like a scarf that you would wear around your neck, except it has pockets in it and that are lined. They cost $2.78 and they're limited edition.
That's $2.78.
That is correct.
This is great.
So my question for you, Kelly, is if you're going to be searching people who come into your home now who might sneak your barbecue sauce into their
I'll
snack
give it to
attack.
him. I won't give
Hefty
him the recipe, but I'll give him some sauce. Goodness gracious!
I mean, we're in Boston. There are labs that can discern what's in your
Look
stuff.
at Jared's
Could
taking
be,
this
but,
as
I'm working this already.
Yeah, you can try it. But that's why the labs are not getting the garbage, because I tutored in 2 different places.
There you go.
as
She's
I
not
said.
kidding. She listens to a lot of criminal investigation stories, so she knows that the trash goes to different places. So I'm going to be watching you.
First of all, if you're wearing a scarf, you're going to put the food in the scarf, and it's going to be right up against your body.
Yeah.
And presumably, if you're wearing a scarf, it's winter, so that means there's a coat around it, and everything you bring home is going to be melted by the time
Well,
you
the
get
picture
it there.
they have here is a young woman has taken off her coat, and she has the scarf around it. You know, there are some reader scarves. They're nice, where they're like sort of nicely knitted, and they have little pockets on the end, so you can put your book accessories in it. So when you move from room to room, from your fireplace to your bedroom, you don't have to.
That's why we had cargo pants.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying.
And look what happened to those.
But this is on a similar track, is my point. So it doesn't look weird, except it does have a big Hefty printed on the front. That might be a clue that you're about to take something from the buffet table. I don't know. I'm just saying that could be a problem. But I think, it's a good talking point for our Hefty. And they said, we wanted to make sure that people could enjoy their favorite foods both at their parties and later at home with the Hefty
while you're driving.
snacks.
While you're driving,
there you
just
go.
reach right in and eat.
But not at CVS, where you have a problem with what's happening at CVS for self-checkout, because you don't want to be tempted at the self-checkout to just slip it into your Hefty scarf.
Yeah,
instead of you're being fully transparent and accountable and putting it in your shopping bag.
That's right. The checkout is that self-checkout. I can't stand it. But also there is this lawyer, I think you all may be referring to, who's online now, gotten a lot of attention, giving people advice about avoiding the self-checkout, because stores are not only bearing down on people, catching people who are, innocent, she says, not the regular thieves who figured out how to scam, but the innocent people who are accidentally didn't scan some item or whatever. They're checking the tape and charging them, because the theft is huge now from self-checkout.
But that's not your problem with
That's not my
self-checkout.
problem, because I'm
Listen,
not there.
as a person who once purchased a cabbage instead of a head of lettuce, I avoid the self-checkout, because it's too stressful for me and I can't read the little numbers on the labels. It's just, that's why I buy my vegetables frozen and I don't go to the self-checkout, because I can't keep track of all this.
But Callie, you want to exchange? You want to have an exchange, not with a machine? Is that your issue with it?
I like a regular person, because if you have anything going on, you can talk to a regular person and you can say, "Oh, this is beat up," for example, and they'll say, "Oh," and put that down and take it off or whatever. And it may go back to when I was little. My father had a favorite grocery checkout person. Her name was Pearl. And Pearl would literally shut her line down when she saw my dad come through. So, because my mother hated to go grocery shopping, and then she figured out Daddy had this, good relationship with Pearl. She's like, why should I go? Because he can go right through.
And then Pearl's happy to see him, and
Pearl's
everybody
happy to
feels
see him.
good.
Yeah, it's a great thing.
Yes.
So maybe I have from those memories as well. Yeah. But I like being able to talk to the people.
Yeah,
in the line.
I have a friend at my Whole Foods that she got promoted, so I'm unhappy because she's never at checkout, but she does come over and say hi to me whenever.
Yeah,
I'm
but
there.
see,
So
isn't that much better? That self-checkout is terrible.
Strangers generally like me better than the people in my family. So I like to go out and interact with the people. But I do say thank you to all the computers, Callie, in case they're keeping track and they come back. Like when I use our vending machine at work, I go, thank you. So there you go.
So you can be on the good list.
Good list. There's no good
When the
list.
computers come from us, they're going to remember Sue said thank you to us when she didn't have to.
Let me point out
When
something.
the robot wars happen, you mean?
Yeah, but somebody else, point out to her that someone will program it, so it might not go in her favor either way, because somebody will be programming that computer.
All right, Callie.
I'm just saying.
Well, when I'm in hiding out in my cave, they won't know where to look for me because I never talk to them.
All right, Callie, happy holidays.
Happy
Enjoy yourself
holidays.
tonight.
I
We're
will.
looking forward to seeing you in the new year.
Yeah.
Callie Crossley, of course, is the host of Under the Radar, which you can catch on Sunday nights right here on 89.7 at 6. Also the host of Basic Black on Fridays at 7:30. And you can hear the Callie commentaries every Monday for GBH's Morning Edition. Now, coming up, Maurice Emanuel
These days, people go to great lengths to shed the stress of daily life. There's acupuncture, deep tissue massage, meditation, yoga. At All Things Considered, we offer our own type of healing, invigorating news stories that span the rainbow of human experience. Nourish your mind and escape from the ordinary. Weekdays on All Things Considered from NPR News.
Today at 4, here on GBH News 89.7.
Support for our programs comes from you and the First Church of Christ Scientist, where you can start first night with an organ performance at 3. Before the concert, you can tour the How Do You See the World experience. More at christianscience.com/firstnight. And Subaru of New England. This holiday season, you and your family can explore New England with a 3-row 2023 Subaru Ascent. You can find your Subaru retailer at subaruofnewengland.com.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. I'm Jared Bowen here with Sue O'Connell. We're here live at the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. For me, a Maurice Emanuel parent, the past 6 years have been one long build-up to this moment with a show produced by the theater company he co-founded, the Front Porch Arts Collective. The show is called Chicken and Biscuits, and it's hilarious and heartwarming as it is complicated and heart-wrenchingly honest. And it's all currently playing at the Suffolk University's Modern Theater. Shows are going on through January 8th. Tickets can be found by going to frontporcharts.org. Maurice Emanuel Parent is here with us in the studio. He's an actor, educator, and co-founder of the Front Porch Arts Collective, as we just mentioned. Tamika Marie Bridwell is here as well. She plays the audacious and bodacious Beverly in her debut performance with the collective. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
So tell us first, set the stage about how you got here and why it's such a big deal. We're talking about the journey and the arrival.
Oh, so as Jared said, it's been 6 years in the making. Yep. We had this idea around Manhattans. I'll go ahead and share the truth. After an opening night celebration about making this company, and we were fortunate to get some really great partners early on that co-produced with us.
But what was the idea? Take us back. What was the idea, the sort of the epiphany that you had over those Manhattans?
Sure. Oh, great. We were at this opening night celebration. It was a show that celebrated Black culture, and we saw this diverse group of people assembled around this art, right? The actors, but also their family, their friends, and the community around us. And we thought, wouldn't it be great if there was a theater company that did this type of work all season long? And, put the Manhattans down, and Don said, I think this might be the idea for a theater company. So
Don Simmons, your co-founder.
Don Simmons, my co-founder. So we have some early collaborators, some early co-producers, and some more established theater companies. So after about 5 years of co-productions, we finally put on our big boy, girl, person pants on and said, what would it be like to start a show from beginning to end and have it all be on our shoulders? And we get to feature and celebrate wonderful talent like Tamika.
So Tamika, I have been raving about the show. I saw it, I think it was last weekend. I thought it was absolutely hilarious and hysterical. But I'll let you describe what this show is and who you play in it.
Okay, Chicken and Biscuits. It's set around a funeral. And I come from a very large family, and I know from past experience that a lot of drama can unfold surrounding a funeral, a lot of family secrets and things like that. And so you definitely have that in Chicken and Biscuits. It is about sisters, two sisters, but a family. But the two sisters, Benita and Beverly, I play Beverly, are burying their dad, who is the patriarch of the family, but is also a pastor of a church. And there's a lot that comes out. I don't want to give it away because I want people to see it, but...
Well, is it fair to say that Beverly's a little extra, as the kids say?
Beverly is a lot extra.
She's a lot of...
Not a little.
Tell us about Beverly.
Beverly is turned all the way up, but she lives unapologetically. And she stands in her truth, and that's one of the things that I really love about playing this character. Yes, she is extra, but she does not apologize for that at all. And I think that there's a lot that everyone can learn from a person like that and take away from a person like that is just able to be who they are and show up as they show up. And so yeah, she's fun. She's tiring. I leave the theater every night worn out and hungry. Because I'm jumping around this stage. She's definitely a force from the moment that she steps onto the stage. She's big. Mm-hmm. She's big. She's very, very big. And so for me as an actress, it's a dream to be able to play a character that is so big, that's so full of life and so full of energy. But you also have to make sure that you are doing your cardio.
Yes.
Getting all your exercise.
Some boot camp training.
Exactly.
That to that. Maurice, can you talk about the bringing together, the birthing of this? You know, it's certainly veterans involved in it, having a nice Manhattan, getting it together. But when you bring something new, some of the institutional help that you often get, it's you don't know where to go, you don't know which place to go, who's going to be more helpful. Even though you've got veterans, you're creating something brand new. What was the process like for that when you're doing this? Plus, in the end, you want to put on a show that people are going to come to and enjoy and really set the tone for what the future is.
Yeah. Thanks for that question. You know, first and foremost, I'm also still an actor. So the first, when we had this idea, Don and I, to start this theater company, we had to make some priorities up front really clear. We knew we were not creating a theater company that was going to make more work for Don and Maurice, right? We wanted to build community and build a platform where we can also have moments to shine, but we want to center other artists in the community around this art first. So in that collaborative spirit, we were able to get some early partnership with Central Square Theater. They were our fiscal sponsors. We would not be here without them. Then now we're in residence at the Huntington, which is another wonderful game-changing partnership. So even today, now that we are solo producing, you know, we still have a lot of support. The folks at Suffolk have been wonderful. So it takes a village, you know, to make this type of art.
Absolutely.
It does. And, you know, Black culture is American culture, so it's knowing that we can be very specific about our mission and about the art we want to create, but knowing that art is so applicable to so many people, whether you are part of the African diaspora or you are not.
Tamika, are we at that point now that we are recognizing both the importance of having specific cultures celebrated within our storytelling traditions and also realizing that it's all of our culture? You know, I'm just watching as my daughter and I are wrapping holiday gifts, and we're just watching all of the endless holiday movies that we now have. It's everybody, right? I'm looking up and there's all sorts of faces and all sorts of peoples and all sorts of orientations. And, you know, she's 22. It didn't even occur to her that some of these stories weren't represented. It's just now what we do. Are we there yet, or are we still climbing?
I believe we're definitely still climbing, but we're further than we were. I think that the pandemic and also George Floyd did a lot to open our collective eyes. I think that the pandemic specifically really demonstrated to us as Americans how much we need each other, but also how interconnected our lives actually are. It wasn't, you know, something that was discriminating against anybody. It's like everybody could get COVID, and so we all had to do what we needed to do as a country to try to band together to figure out, you know, what all the things that needed to be figured out, right? And how to stay safe, how to heal. And so I think that we're definitely still getting there. I think that the younger generations are, like you said, your daughter's 22 and is not necessarily aware of some of our history and also some of the attitudes, and it's confusing. I also am a mom, and my daughter is she's about to be 12, and she was horrified, of course, with, you know, having to explain to her about George Floyd and not understanding how or why people felt this way or, you know, would do something like that. And so I think that it's wonderful that we have young people who are not necessarily indoctrinated to some of the toxicity of the attitudes and the feelings of the thought processes of the past. But I also think that it's important for them to know
Yeah, it's
the
funny
history.
being a parent. Like I'm saying, well,
Yes.
look, everyone in this Hallmark movie is African American, and she's like, what's wrong with you? I'm like,
Yeah.
this didn't exist for
Yeah.
me. You know,
Yeah.
this didn't exist for you 22 years ago. We should take a moment to say, look at it. She's just like,
It's beautiful,
shut
so
up and
normalized.
keep rapping.
Yeah.
And Maurice,
Yeah.
having this platform now, so this is a major platform because a huge part of your role is you now, with your co-creators, decide which stories you're going to tell and how you're going to tell them. So how are you deciding which stories to tell?
We're trying to respond to the moment and the community needs and also our own artistic interests and the artists we want to celebrate. So we chose Chicken and Biscuits as our first solo production very specifically because as a collective, there's times when we need to speak directly to the systemic racism or some of the many of the ills that we're facing today, particularly as people of color. And then there's times we have to realize that beautiful families, communities, networks were built in response to that. And not all our art needs to center that narrative. We can center a narrative around a relatable family that is funny, that gives joy and gives hope and gives love. What I love about the artists in the show, if I may say, I mean, I'm not an arts critic, but, I'm a fan. But it's like you find the joy, you find the humor, and it's hilarious, but it's also touching, heartwarming. And that's what I was excited to see, and that moves me every time I see it. And that's what we wanted to put into the world right now, considering everything that's going on, and that's what we want to give to our communities.
And so I will jump off that to say that I thought it was absolutely universal. And I had that really fun moment, too, where people were talking during the production, something that might ordinarily be irritating, but the show is resonating so much that people were responding, and I felt like it rolled off the stage to these great 4 women who were in front of me having a ball, and then just kept rolling back, and everybody around me, you could just feel them enjoying the show. But because, as you say, it's universal, we I think, as audience members, all identified with at least 1 or 2 of the characters because we know them, maybe we are them to some degree. But Tamika, I heard that you saw some of your own family, maybe some of your family is in this via you.
They definitely are. One of my aunts came to the show and she was saying, my favorite part is you and this cigarette, because I smoke a cigarette in the first scene of the show, and I'm like, it should be your favorite part because it's you. It's based off of you. Now these are my aunties in the 90s and the 80s, so it was different, back then in terms of just the normalcy of around smoking cigarettes and maybe cussing your kids out a little bit. And so there's so much of my family, the people that I know from my my community, and also myself. There are definitely are parts where I intersect very much so with Beverly.
Which of the saucy parts might those be?
Oh, okay. Well, Beverly speaks for my now. There are some things that Beverly gets away with saying to her kid, to her daughter, that I can't really say to my daughter because my daughter would probably be on a therapist's couch for the rest of her life if I said these things, but I think them.
It's okay to think them. It's absolutely okay to think them.
So we intersect there. I like to think that I try to live authentically and say what's on my mind. It was a journey getting to that place for me. But definitely, I think we intersect there. Beverly also loves very hard. She's accepting of everyone, and I think that she really wants that love and that acceptance back, but doesn't always get it. And so I think that I definitely relate to that. I think that that's who I try to be in my life in terms of accepting people, loving on people, and that's what I want you to get when you interact with me. Now, I don't always get it, but I've learned to be okay with that. There was a point where I wasn't, but it's not really about getting it back, because I also have learned how to give it to myself. So I think that that's important. I think that that's a journey that Beverly is on.
Maurice, you're getting rave reviews and folks are loving it. What's the most surprising reaction you've had? What is it that when you look at this? I mean, I'm sure it's a dream come true. I'm sure you're thrilled, but what is it that's surprising to you about the reaction that you're getting, if anything?
Oh, that's a great question. I would say. This is I don't want to give away too much, but there's a moment of rapping that happens on stage that I even reading the play, I laugh, And actually, this speaks to a larger thing too. I laugh, and I was like, I wonder if the audience is going to get this moment, and everyone's rolling their seats because it's so well staged. Lindsay Allen Cox did her thing with that, you know. And I'll be honest.
She's the director. We should mention.
Thank you. I'm lost without you. Seriously. You know, I guess the larger thing I'm surprised by is we took something that we knew would be applicable to all folks, but it's very rooted in a Black family and Black culture. But then that's always that conversation, like, will people get it? Will people see it for the truth that it is, and not any type of like ridicule of the community, but celebration of the truth and the people that are like this in real life? And will really people get it? And think everyone has, and that's so heartwarming. That knows that we're on the right path.
So, Tamika, this is your real first major comedy role?
Yes. I didn't think that I was a comedic actress at all before. I did Blacks last year, which was also a comedy, but it was different.
Yeah.
This is like slapstick. This is comedy.
So do you feel what most actors say, that comedy is way harder than straight plays and drama?
I believe so.
Why is that?
Timing. If your timing is off, then you're not going to get the laughs. Everything has to be, it's a rhythm. There's a rhythm to it. And I was surprised to find that I actually have that rhythm. I didn't think that I was versed in that rhythm at all. I thought that I was a very serious thespian.
One last question about this. Was it hard for you to... Did you think you had it in you to? Well, you must have, because you went up for the role.
Yes.
But how difficult was it for you to go after comedy?
So, because I know this woman, right? It wasn't challenging. It's challenging in terms of the overall development of Beverly's story. While she is a mashup of different people that I know, she's also uniquely herself, and she's written, in very specific ways. And so I had to kind of take some of what I've had from my life and, mix it with Beverly, if you will. But I definitely. I don't know. I definitely did not. I knew that I would be able to do it, but I didn't know that I would be able to do it.
Well, we saw it from the audition, but I understand.
We were talking about recipes earlier and tinkering with recipes. Are you tinkering? Do you feel yourself in this comedy world and tinkering with the timing? Because timing there's a number of ways the timing can make it funny.
Yes.
Are you doing it? Are you experiencing that?
Yes.
No.
Yeah, I definitely am tinkering with it. I think that I'm at a place now in the run of the show where Beverly has taken over my body.
Are those Beverly's nails?
These are
Beverly's beautiful nails.
Thank you. These are Beverly's nails. This is also a place where Beverly and I collide, because I also love very elaborate nails. So I was very happy that I didn't have to change my nails for Beverly. But I'm definitely still tinkering. The thing that I love most about live theater, is that it's different every single night. That you have to listen, that you have to be in the moment and responsive to the audience, to your scene partners, to everyone. And so because she is now in a place where she's living, sometimes she'll go a little bit astray, and I feel it. Like, there was a time one night where, of course, the audience doesn't know the lines, but I completely changed the line. And I did. I'm giving away my secret. I completely changed the line, but I felt like this was Beverly. It wasn't off in terms of the telling of the story, but it was Beverly. And I'm like, girl, we have lines that were written. You got to sit down right now. Like, you can't just be saying whatever you want. I know you're a free spirit, but yes.
Reel it in.
Reel it in.
So, Maurice, as you've explained, it took you 6 years to get to this point to have a solo show, which speaks to just the difficulty of, one, working in the arts and having theater in the arts, especially coming out of the pandemic. Just recently on this show, we were talking about how attendance is down as much as 40% in some arenas. But how do you see the next steps for Front Porch? And do you feel strong in that this is an organization that's just growing at this point?
I do. I feel very happy with the response to Chicken and Biscuits, and feeling very motivated by honestly this is the first time we get to work together, and we call ourselves a Porch family. We didn't want to be only a theater company. We are building a family and a community around this art, both on stage and off stage. So I'm feeling very excited. We are still not. We have not gotten moved past the co-production model. I think there's a lot of benefits to that, so we're probably going to revisit that. In fact, we are revisiting that later this season with KISSING, a co-production with the Huntington Theater. So I think we're going to take everything that we learned from Chicken and Biscuits and sort of come to the table and sort of see what our next steps will be. We wanted to build the show. We wanted to build a company very smartly and very step by step. We didn't want to take on too much too soon. That's why it took us 6 years. We wanted to strategically build capacity and build the team around being able to do this, and we've assembled some more people to the team to make this happen. So then we're going to see, okay, what are the next logical steps to make sure that the mission is most important. Got to make sure the mission is moving forward, engaging Black artists, artists of color, all types of artists, and make shows rooted in African diaspora stories for a diverse and inclusive audience. Like, that's the mission. So we got to make sure that stays and that keeps moving forward.
Well, I'll tell you, I remember sitting down with you and Don upstairs at GBH at the very beginning, and frankly, sometimes I have those conversations and I think, well, that's nice and maybe it'll happen, but I just felt it from you both that day. They've got it, they've figured it out, this is happening.
Oh, thank you, Jared.
Yeah.
All right, well, congratulations to you both. Happy holidays. Thank you for coming by to see us. It's so exciting for me to meet you and to hear. Sorry I haven't seen it yet, but Jared is raving about it and others are as well, so congratulations. Absolutely. I want to see those nails on stage.
Yes!
I want to see them light up. All right, Maurice Emmanuel Parent is an actor, educator, and co-founder of the Front Porch Arts Collective, and Tomika Marie Bridwell plays Beverly in a highlight performance in their Chicken and Biscuits, which is playing through January 8th. You can get your tickets by going to frontporcharts.org. Look, we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to be joined on Zoom by New Yorker writer and author of Finale, Late Conversations with Steven Sondheim. DT Max, he's going to be up with us next. You're listening to Boston Public Radio 89.7 GBH.
You know, we've been together for some time, and I'm pretty sure you know how I feel about you. Feel the vibrations between us, and never let them die. Check. Time. Sit back and relax, I'll take you all the way. Oh, it's not the
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. We're live at the Boston Public Library. I'm Jared Bowen here with Sue O'Connell, and we're also streaming at youtube.com/GBH News, and we're continuing on the theater frontier. Between 2016 and 2019, New Yorker writer D.T. Max conducted 5 in-depth interviews with the legendary composer Steven Sondheim, intending for those conversations to fuel a deep dive profile of Sondheim for the magazine. That never happened, but 1 year after the theater god's death, Max has turned those conversations into a fantastic new book, Finale, Late Conversations with Steven Sondheim. He joins us now on Zoom. Welcome to Boston Public Radio, D.T. Max.
Thank you for having me.
You know, D.T., it may sound silly, but for those who may have no idea who Steven Sondheim is, or like me, came to him late in life, Could you describe who he is and why he's important to us and why it was important to you to work on this project?
Yeah, sure. So Steven Sondheim was the most important composer lyricist of Broadway theater in the last, I'd say, 75 years. His most famous shows are A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum, Sweeney Todd, Sunday in the Park with George. And if you have kids who are high school age, they almost certainly performed in a one-act version of Into the Woods. He revolutionized Broadway theater. You know, Broadway musicals used to be pretty straightforward things. If you felt love, you sang about love. If you felt anger, you sang an angry song. He introduced kind of novel level complexity into Broadway theater, so that going to see a Steven Sondheim show was as satisfying, say, as reading a great novel. Now, I came to him because early in my life, when I was about 14 years old, and I tell this story in Finale, I was addicted, like many people my age, to A Chorus Line and Fiddler on the Roof and certain other pretty straightforward Broadway musicals. And I'm not putting them down, they're great musicals. And then my mother brought home a copy of a review of Sondheim's songs called Side by Sondheim. And I kind of immediately understood that just something different was taking place, something better, something richer, something that more closely captured life as I understood it. And from then on, I was hooked.
Well, DT, let me share a little bit about my Sondheim experience, which was years and years and years ago. Sondheim was doing a conversation tour with Frank Rich, and they would be on stage and they would have a conversation, and I was a very young arts reporter at the time, and I made the request to have an interview, and they said, well, he really only does interviews with the New York Times. You can come, but we're not sure he's going to do it, so we went over there with all of our camera equipment. We set it all up with all of the lights and the cameras, and I'm thinking, we're PBS, we've got all the equipment set up, how could he not do it? He didn't do it. So,
wow.
So I never got to meet him. I did get to see the conversation, the theater god line as I introduced him. That's mine because I worship him as for what he did to theater. So what did it mean to have the access that you had, these 5 lengthy conversations and times with him?
Well, I mean, first of all, I'm sorry that your story didn't go the other way, which I thought you were going to say he gave us 2 hours, he took us to his house, we all went and did a rehearsal of Sweeney Todd together. I got to sing the title role. You know, I mean, what you're saying is interesting. I think that, and I don't mean to at all put down your efforts or your venue, but I mean, he did do a lot of interviews over the years. Now, he may have done them. You know, he was around so long, he may have said no to even more. I wasn't aware that it was, well, I mean, obviously so the story is, I wrote him. I see his name on an ideas list at the New Yorker, which is, there's a list of like shows and movies and things that will be coming along, you know, in 3 to 6 months. And we might want to get a reporter to write about them. Because you want to, as a New Yorker feature writer, you want to be there early. You know, you want to be at the first rehearsal. You don't want to be there when it opens. So anyway, I see Sondheim's name on the list, and he's got a new musical that he's working on, and it's based on two movies by Luis Buñuel, the Mexican-Spanish art house director, if you like, Discreet Charm of the Bourgeoisie, and then the other one is Exterminating Angel. And so I wrote him. This is sort of the opposite of your story, if you like. So I wrote him. And I get back, you know, I write actually his assistant, and I get back a letter from him, an email from him saying, you know, I would be delighted, you know, I'd be flattered, he says, I'd be flattered if the New Yorker wants to profile me, you know, and I would just love to read something of yours before we actually go forward. And so, you know, I was, first of all, and he says that he signs it yours, Steve, you know, and he addresses me as, I think he addresses me as Daniel, which is my, you know, actual name. If you don't mind, or something like very, you know, very peer-to-peer. And I said, you know, and so first of all, I mean, I could see there was a little bit of cleverness or exaggeration or archness in the email, because I mean, honestly, I mean, how flattered could he possibly have been? You know, he had 8 Tonys at that point. He had 8 Grammys. He had a presidential honor. And he had a Broadway theater name for him. So, I mean, a New Yorker profile is a wonderful thing. And it turned out, as he pointed out to me, he'd already been profiled in the New Yorker about 20 years before. But anyway, you know, he said yes. Now, I don't know. So I sent him a a recent book I'd written on David Foster Wallace, a biography. And he wrote me back and he said that he had read the first sentence and it really reminded him of the first sentence in a current issue of The New Yorker that he had just read in a memoir in that issue, and that that we should get together. So it was kind of funny that I passed the audition, kind of based on one sentence. He didn't really tell me if he loved the book or liked the book. He didn't tell me he read more of the book. But that was the audition. He did later say that he could see I was a serious person. So I don't know, Jared. Maybe he just took one.
Well, I know Sue has a question for you, but I will say I think looking back at it, I was too young. I was definitely too young to have interviewed Steven Sondheim at that point, so I'm almost thankful, and truly thankful now that it didn't work out. I would have been ready for it 2 years ago, as you were, but not then.
Fair enough.
DT, I love the approach in writing the book and interviewing. I think I read that you took it as a sort of stance of ignorance when approaching this subject, which obviously you know so much about, and I dare say you're probably an expert in. And of course, I love it because it's the approach I try to take on things, because I don't ever want to be too inside baseball. I don't ever want to be talking about things because I have this vast knowledge of it, and other people who are listening are like, "What the heck is she talking about?" I like to not be shallow, but be curious and try and be nimble to ask questions. And that's, it seems to me, the approach that you took with this. Is that correct? And how did you compartmentalize that, knowing what you know and knowing who he is and how important he is to our society?
Well, a stance of ignorance might be giving me slightly too much credit. I deliberately did not. There's a lot of information you can get today on the web. You can make yourself a quasi-expert on something like Sondheim, who's been around so long and been around so often, so that there are no surprises left when you go and see him. And, because you guys do interviews, that the goal is to bring out what I have to say. My goal was to bring out what Sondheim had to say. So even if I'd known everything about Sondheim, which I honestly didn't, although I knew where to find it. And actually, weirdly, Jared, I also saw the Frank Rich interview tour. I saw it in Washington, where I was living at the time. It was very good. But I also am blessed with a fairly bad memory. and so I really didn't know, I didn't know where he lived, which I could easily have found out. I didn't know whether he had a partner, which I could have found out. I didn't know whether he liked to compose in the bathtub or, on a step machine, which I could have easily. So those are the sorts of things. And I wanted him to tell the stories. I don't always do that with every person I interview, but I also sense that Sondheim, who had been interviewed so often, and I felt this very strongly, and it's sort of the basis of Finale, really, that he would want to get one last really good shot at telling the stories. Some he would tell similarly that as to what he had told before, and some would be, new, right? Some would be discoveries. And so that was really key. That was the key idea. That's really the key idea of the book is he's been interviewed before, but, later in life, a person's a little bit different. They open up in slightly different ways. There's some things they're willing to say and think about that they might not have been previously. And so that was really important for me. And I didn't want to step on that by coming in with, my knowledge of his Broadway career and then his off-Broadway career again. And so I could exaggerate how much I knew. It wasn't like I was faking it, sitting there all the time going, I know that. Because I don't think you can fake it. I think you have to be sincerely involved in a conversation as an interviewer. And I felt like if Finale succeeds, it's because I'm sincerely involved in a conversation with him, and he's sincerely involved in a conversation with me.
Well, let's talk about some of what came out in these late-in-life interviews. I was quite struck because of the complexity of his work and how he was looking at characters and society, that he describes himself as a fast mind, a slow reader, not somebody who enjoyed the opera, sort of a limited palette for music, not the Sondheim I expected.
Yeah, he had preferences, is what I remember somewhat more. So, for instance, in opera, he tells me he loved Puccini, he didn't like Verdi. So if you said that to me, I'd be like, okay, that's interesting. Let's go see Puccini. But with him, you're like, really? You don't love Rigoletto? Isn't that exactly what Sweeney Todd is modeled on? A lot of questions come up almost immediately. He surprised me in a number of ways. One way was that he really liked computers and he liked Word. I mean, you don't really think of Sondheim as being a guy. First of all, he's extremely old. I mean, he's in the late 80s when I meet him. He's 87, I think, when I interview him for the first time in very early 2017, or maybe he's 86. But the point is, you're not expecting somebody to say, if I were a later generation, I'd have been a computer programmer. I mean, that was really surprising. Right. And it turned out he'd been a math major. And weirdly enough, actually, he had gone to camp with Tom Lear, the mathematician, songwriter, composer, who I guess until recently was at MIT. So he wasn't, and then in the reading area, it was interesting. One thing that I didn't know about him was, and when I sent him my book, I learned this, is, he really didn't like to read full-length books. And I think the reason is he found them flat, He liked short. He did short. He liked short. Short was what was fun for Sondheim. Short, mysterious, full of puzzles, tricks. That was what he loved. And I think that's what he read when he read stuff. And then an ordinary book just plays itself out too slowly for his taste. Remember, he didn't write the books for his musicals, right? I mean, the book for musical is not the same thing as a novel, but it's the story. And he didn't write them. Someone else did that.
We're speaking with D.T. Max, the author of Finale, Late Conversations with Steven Sondheim. D.T., the other thing that I was struck from the stories in your book and your conversations, but also with some interviews that I heard on the occasion of Sondheim's death, and I obviously was aware of him, but I hadn't really known anything about him. And you're touching on this a little bit, sort of the complexity of his personality, which we should expect. He has a complex personality, but he was, I think you write about, he was kind. And I've heard stories of people that he would send a note to out of the blue just to give them some support. I don't want to say cheerlead because it wasn't just this shallow effort, but that he was a very complicated person who was surprising to people when they met him or interacted with him. Was that your experience as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think Sondheim was a densely layered person who could be kind. He also could be quite cutting. I mean, there's a moment when we're at this gala, and, I tried to get him out of his house. He was as I say in the book, he was a well-nested individual. He had this gorgeous, gorgeous townhouse.
I'm actually going to steal that line, by the way. Well-nested. When people ask me why I'm not going out, I'm going to say I'm well-nested, according to D.T. Max.
So he called it the house that Gypsy built, his early musical. So I wanted to see him outside, where he couldn't kind of control the environment quite so much. Because, in his house with his staff, he was quite masterful and fairly relaxed. So we went to a big gala where he was honored. And, he was kind to some people. He could be sort of cutting to others. I mean, naturally, a lot of people come up to Sondheim and say, your work, meant everything to me, right? And at one point he turned to me and he said, somebody ought to write a book called I Hate to Interrupt You, But. And that's kind of, so, okay, I mean, we get, that this had been happening to him. He becomes famous. Sondheim becomes famous, remember, early in his life. He's only in his 20s when he writes the lyrics to West Side Story and launches 1,000, other high school musicals. So he almost never had a life when people weren't coming up to him. And I'd say on the one hand, what you say is absolutely true. He was well known to write letters. He would write people back who didn't expect to be written back to. And he would go to a lot of tryouts and workshops, sometimes just as a friend of a friend, and sit in the back and take a few notes and pass them on to the aspiring, songwriter or composer. And I think that surprised me very much. You asked what surprised me. That I did not know that even in his 80s, he's still out just hearing new things. So I was impressed by that.
And we should mention that gala, by the way. You were also palling around with Meryl Streep that night, which is a pretty extraordinary passage. But to talk about who Sondheim was in his later years and how he was working in his latter years, there was, of course, a string of successes for him. It seemed, looking back at history, one after the next, after the next, after the next. But of course, wasn't producing as much work late, or hardly any work late in his career. And I was struck by this notion that he was so fearful, you can tell me if that's the right word, of repeating himself. So how did you look at him as an artist at that late time, still having this desire to create, but having a fear?
I think you have it exactly right. I mean, I think he was afraid of a couple of things. So we did 5 interviews, right? Started in his house, then we went to this big gala event. Then I went up to his country house. He invited me up to his country house in Connecticut. And so I went to his country house, and it was beautiful in a different way. It wasn't quite the stage set of the city house. You could see it was where he could compose and relax a bit. So we had a more relaxing conversation in the end. And it was there that he sort of told me how he worried that he was kind of out of date and old-fashioned. So he's working on this musical, right, on these Buñuel movies. And in a way, it's a perfect project for him, weird as it may sound to people who don't know Sondheim, because it's 2 different movies, and how do you make a musical out of 2 different movies, and all these sorts of problems. But I felt he could surmount all of those problems. I think what was hard for him was the sense that he had that, time had passed him and his style by, and that he was now kind of not a curiosity, but a sort of small market passion. And most of all, that he wasn't central to the cultural conversation anymore. I felt that was what bothered him most. I don't think in my heart that he didn't think he could compose well enough. I mean, I saw some of the music, not an expert judge. It sounded like Sondheim to me. I mean, that's just a tiny piece of it, a complicated work. But I did feel that what was holding him back, and I felt that very strongly, and I write about it, in this 3rd scene and finale is when we're in his house in Connecticut, and he talks about how he says, I'm worried I'm old-fashioned now. And he uses the S word, I'm old-fashioned S now. And I actually tried to kind of jolly him out of it. I, who had no real reason to be there at all, was reassuring him that he was not old-fashioned, that he was still, I said to him, genius is never old-fashioned or never out of fashion. And he made a kind of salaaming gesture to me, a kind of thank you, an ironic thank you gesture. And then he went on and said something which I think he thought about a lot, which is that that true geniuses, and he used that term, or real geniuses like Stravinsky, Picasso, and Gershwin are the examples he puts forward, never run out of material. They never run out of the ability to take current culture and make it part of what they do. That was the key. So in other words, I think he looked at a composer like Lin-Manuel Miranda, and he didn't want to be Lin-Manuel Miranda, but he understood that there were forms and rhythms that were more current and felt more urgent than what he was using, that he was really a 40s or 50s songster. And I couldn't convince him, that wasn't really a fair appraisal of of who he was and what he could do. He had thought about it hard. There was nothing I was going to be able to say to convince him. He said he compared himself to Victor Herbert, of Naughty Marietta. It was brutal. It was the meanest thing a critic could have said to him, and he said it to himself.
Yet his involvement with young artists, as you point out, Lin-Manuel is another example of someone whom he interacted with, right? That in a sense was an extension of his legacy, where I may not want to do it, but I am helping this new generation do it.
I think that's right. I also think that when he helped people, he tended to push them away from imitating him because he felt that was old. He pushed them into trying to find a current voice, which I think for some was somewhat confusing, because a lot of people go into writing musicals not because they want to sound like, Drake, but because they want to sound like Hammerstein and Rodgers and Hammerstein. So it's kind of weird that he would say, find what matters to you in today's culture. I mean, I'm oversimplifying it. There are things in today's culture that fuel musicals, Lin-Manuel being a great example, and Hamilton and so on. But I did feel this was for me in finale. This was the key moment in the book. The key moment in the book is that moment when he says that to me, and I don't think he was faking it. I also think always with him, he understood that we were speaking on the record, so he was measuring his words carefully. He wasn't crying in my lap, but it clearly mattered to him, and he had just been working that morning and not working very happily, and I think that's actually was probably why it came up. I mean, I didn't say, do you feel old-fashioned?
Right.
Are you old-fashioned? Pooh. No, I didn't say that to him. I mean, he said to me, I said, oh, he said, I didn't write well this morning. And I said, well, you write well tomorrow. And then that's when he sort of started the conversation about, Gershwin, Stravinsky. I mean, those are big names, right? I mean, it wasn't like in a way, he was giving
DT Max, we just have a minute left, but I have to. I just want to be sure to ask you this question because everybody wonders about it, I think, who is a musical theater fan or a Sondheim fan. I remember him talking about that final musical that he was working on at that Frank Rich talk. Everybody knew there were various dates for when it would happen. Of course, it never happened. It sounds like from your book that at least half of it, the first act, was there and polished. Do you think we will ever see that late work or get any sense of that late work?
All right. Well, I'll give you a journalist answer. So I have on very good background information from one well-connected individual that it will never, ever appear, and not much was done. And then I have from another very, very well-connected individual that they're already planning when to put it on. So I don't really have an answer. I mean, welcome to the theater, welcome to Sondheim's world. I think that he had gotten a fair distance on the first act, and we talked about it in finale, and less far on the second act. And I don't really know what you do about the songs that aren't quite done in the second act if you want to be fair to Sondheim and his legacy. That's why we're seeing so many amazing revivals right now. I mean, that's the moment for the revival. So my short answer is I hope so, I heard so, but I also heard not.
All right, DT Max, thank you so much for joining us. He's a staff writer at The New Yorker. His latest book is Finale, Late Conversations with Steven Sondheim. Thank you so much. Happy holidays to you, DT.
Same to both of you. Happy holidays.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, and the last live Music Friday of 2022, and singer-songwriter Miranda Ray is with us. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH.
These days, people go to great lengths to shed the stress of daily life. There's acupuncture, deep tissue massage, meditation, yoga. At All Things Considered, we offer our own type of healing, invigorating news stories that span the rainbow of human experience. Nourish your mind and escape from the ordinary. Weekdays on All Things Considered from NPR News.
Today at 4, here on GBH News 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you and Avangrid, a clean energy company committed to accelerating Massachusetts' climate goals of building solutions for climate change by investing in offshore wind and hydroelectric power. Learn more at avangrid.com. And New England Dental Group, committed to helping you stop hiding your smile by offering a variety of dental implant solutions to replace missing teeth in one of their 8 locations. Learn more at newenglanddentalgroup.com.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. We're live at the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Jim and Marjorie have the day off, so I'm Jared Bowen here with Sue O'Connell. It's time for our final live Music Friday performance of 2022, and what a fantastic year it's been here at the library. So we're ending things with a fantastic singer-songwriter. Cambridge's own Miranda Ray performing today with some of the folks from the Boston collective Megazoid. Miranda is going to be singing for us now, but if you want more, she'll also be at the High Street Place on New Year's Eve, and she's playing Brighton Music Hall on March 15th with singer Chris Walton. You can find more information at mirandaraymusic.com. Welcome to Boston Public Radio.
Yes, thank you for having me.
So exciting.
Very excited.
You brought the rays of sunshine are going to come back while you're here, like when we saw you this morning when you came in. So
yeah, we don't want no clouds.
No clouds. So tell us about yourself, as they say in the biz. What's we're going to hear you sing in a minute, but just what are your inspirations? What brought you here with us?
What brought me here is music, of course, and I've been singing for a very, very long time, and I enjoy music a lot. So there's when in life you can only see one thing for yourself, and that's the only thing that makes sense for me is music. So I've been singing professionally, I guess you can say. I'd like to call myself professional for about 10 years now. And I started writing music, making my own songs. And in 2020, I got blessed to work with Megazoid. So now I have a band, and we played together all over Boston.
When did you know? When did you know that this is what you were going to do? I know when you're a little kid, everyone's singing all the time. Mm-hmm. You have no idea if you're good or bad. Everyone tells you you're great, right? And
I know, even if they're lying.
Yes. But, for you, obviously, I'm sure they were not. And then, but at some point, when did you know that this was going to be it?
I think for me, the moment was probably when I created my first song. And I was doing a lot of open mics and singing, a lot of covers, and then a lot of people when someone else can see the greatness in you, and sometimes you don't know it yet. And then when I finally made that first song, I was like, wow, I think I can do this, because a lot of people would come back and relate with the stories of the lyrics, and have great commentary, and just a lot of validation. So I think once I finally found my own voice in my own music with my own writing, that's when I knew this was for me.
I guess we have writing on the brain, especially just talking about Steven Sondheim.
Yes.
Where does writing come into this for you?
Writing is still very, very much new for me. I like to say I'm a learner, and every song I take something from that and then try to apply it to the next song. And I've been writing probably for 5 years. I did take a break during the pandemic. It was a very weird time. Mm-hmm. So I just started writing again this summer, and I'm very happy with it because I like collaborative writing. I think that's very important to bounce ideas off of other artists and creatives, and it just gives a better product. Because sometimes when you're in your own head, you stick with the same melody and the same rhythm, the same timing, the same words. And then when someone else is in the room, why don't you just try it this way? Why don't you just sing it this way or write this line? And then it makes you think oh wait, this could even be better than what you said. And I think that's the type of writer.
So we're going to invite you over to perform for us. But
yes.
First, your first song is Ease, and just give us an introduction to that song.
Okay, yeah. Ease is a new song that I like to perform for you guys. It's from an EP that I plan on releasing in 2023. And it's kind of my first time talking about love in a different way. So
okay, we look forward to hearing that. All right, Miranda Ray is playing with Megazoid, and on keys is Liam Thomas, and on bass is Marco Marcel. A reminder that she's going to be playing at 100 High Street Marketplace on the 31st, and hopefully we'll have a tour coming up soon with singer-songwriter Chris Walton.
We've been together for some time, and I'm pretty sure you know how I feel about you. Feel the vibrations between us, and never let them die.
Just close your eyes. Ooh, and let me ease your mind. It's been a long day, I know you're tired, babe. Just sit back and relax, I'll take you all the way. I'll give you all you need, you don't gotta pay. Put you right to sleep, let
there with members of Megazoid playing with her, Liam Thomas and Marco Marcel. We heard that there's an interesting story about that song, too. It's a very intimate song, very personal song. And your father weighed in.
Oh, he's a very big fan of my songs. And his name is Ray, which is funny. So Miranda Ray.
Yeah.
No, I was very nervous about writing that song and then playing it for him. I was like, I'm not sure if we're gonna like this. You know what I'm saying? And no, he liked the vibe. It gives him like that Maxwell, that 90s R&B. So. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
he liked it.
Yeah, I could see why. I mean, it's incredible, and your vocal is so clear and so soulful at the same time, which is very hard to achieve. Can you talk? I mean, I know you talk about some of the influences, and you talk about folks in the '90s and the aughts, but I hear some Chaka Khan coming through very clearly there. Who are your influences? I mean, you are who you are, and it's your voice. I always hate to say this because
it's okay.
You're uniquely yourself and so clear, but some of the influences that are coming from much earlier and a lot of current R&B to me is really reaching back musically and stylistically to some of the 70s. Who are your influencers?
A lot of my influencers, I like to say that the music I listened to growing up, those are my teachers. Yeah. So you saying Chaka Khan is like, thank you. So I would say like Jill Scott, Sade, Anita Baker, John Legend, if you want to take it back even further, like Teddy Pendergrass, just staying in that like Motown, neo soul, Philly R&B, you know what I mean? And just like growing up, my mom, she just gave us like really, I think we just listened to music that she liked.
Well, that's what happens until you take over the car.
So she liked Mariah Carey and Lauryn Hill and India Arie, and I would just listen to those on repeat, and I would just mimic until I felt like, I kind of resembled them. I don't know how good I don't know how up to par I was at 10.
At 10. Well, I think that's stylistic. I mean, it gets in you. I mean, that's you integrate that into how your brain waves are working. And when you have a natural talent and a natural voice like your own, and you just make it your own. I'm curious. I just recently read an article about how the variety in chord changes in popular music, all popular music across all genres, from R&B, country, everything. The chord changes have reduced, right? The music.
Yeah, they always kind of use the same.
They're really. What is your experience? Are they agreeing with me, or are they disagreeing with me?
They're
agreeing. It sounds like you have a much more expansive palette of chords that you're choosing from. Is that something you're approaching in your?
What's really funny? I'm not very educated in music theory.
That's probably a good thing.
Yeah, probably. It's working. I kind of just like go off of what I hear, and then like for example, like I think one time they were trying to tune my voice on a track, and like the track was in one scale, and then I was singing in a jazz scale over and I'm just like, I didn't even know I was doing that. Yeah. And so I definitely say I'm a self-taught singer. They definitely keep me on key, my band.
So my favorite song to ask singer-songwriters, my favorite question to ask singer-songwriters is, now that you are doing this, if you always have a song running through you.
Like a go-to? Or
if you're putting away the dishes.
Yeah, no, you'll say a word, I'll sing a song. Give me a word, I'll sing a song. They make me think of something else. Someone says a phrase, that phrase would make me think of a lyric. I'm just like always singing. Even if I'm humming to myself, someone will be like, are you talking to yourself? I'm like, no, I'm just singing. Don't worry about it.
And do you have to be in certain environments to write, or can you write anywhere?
I definitely have to be in a certain environment to write, just because it's hard for me to express myself, especially in writing. So I definitely have to put myself in that place. And sometimes even with the song, I kind of get scatterbrained, and I'm like, okay, let's really narrow down the topic. Like, what are we talking about? What are we trying to feel? What are we trying to convey? And then we go from there.
So I think it's time for another song. This one, is it Closer or I'm guessing Closure?
Yes.
Closure.
You guys are getting a lot of sneak peeks today.
We like first performances.
Especially for the year end.
What is this song?
So Closure is basically the end of a relationship that I had. Yeah, we all go through it.
Yeah.
But there's still love, always. And just basically saying that, it's kind of like, do we fight for the love or do we let it go? And just in that battle. And, it's very personal to me. And this new project that I'm releasing at the top of 2023, I don't want to give a date yet because you guys are going to hold me to it. All these people here are going to hold me to that date, and they're going to be like, well, you lied, girl.
It's not real unless it's got a deadline.
I had the dedeadline in my head, it's happening today.
Hey, so Steven Sondheim kept people waiting more than 10 years, so you have a lot of latitude there. So we'll invite you over now.
All right, thank you.
For another preview. Sue and I are so excited about this.
Miranda Ray with Megazoid, and of course reminding you that she's going to be playing at the Brighton Music Hall coming up in March, so you can mark your calendars there, playing with Megazoid. Just so our final live music Friday here for 2022. So we're thrilled to be here. Take it away, Miranda.
Oh, where's the love when the love's gone? Not so broke it can't be repaired. We gave up before tomorrow, but if we just made love, come on, come on, come on, come on. Well, maybe it'll save us. Come on, come on. Oh, 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 oh. What happened to our bed of roses? They'll keep calling, we keep coming. We arrived to where the road ends. I had to go through the dust to see the sun. Falling in love with you was the best thing I've ever done. Illuminating my face, brown skin, stealing all of my thoughts. And I'm gonna miss you 'cause your beauty was fly. Your beauty was fly. Away from a good thing. I've accepted my demons and you're overdue to be happy. It'll be a real long day trying to watch out forever come to an end. It'll take a miracle to save us now, so come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. A shame we didn't work it out. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Let's make love before they run the curtains. Come on, come on, come on. Our beauty was fly. Our beauty was fly. Our beauty. Oh, 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 oh. Ooh.
Miranda Ray and Megazoid, thank you so much for joining us, Miranda. We want to let folks know that they can catch you live by High Street Place this New Year's. And again, as I mentioned, you'll be performing March 18th at the Brighton Music Hall, and you can get more information at Miranda Ray Music.
Oh, March 15th.
Oh, March 15th. Yep. I'm making that up. March 15th.
Before Sue finishes, I just have one quick question for you. When you're writing a song like that, are you thinking of the person on the other end listening?
Well, actually, it was a collaborative writing, and I would like to say that Don Beeman wrote the song, and I'm singing his words. But it's kind of like, conveying both emotions. So, could you repeat that one more time
Just
so I can answer?
Yeah, especially when you're singing to someone about the end of a relationship, if you're cognizant of them on the other side receiving that.
Yeah, definitely, because, I have to bring it in some sort of way. So I do have to put myself in that place.
I was thinking,
and I hope I did that today.
Yeah,
so.
you did indeed. Had me thinking about a couple of people myself. So we're all good there. All
that
right.
7th grade crush.
I know it.
I know it.
You know how it is. The high school reunion came up. Now we can't shake them. All right, Miranda Ray Music, RAEmusic.com. Thank you so much for joining us. Happy holidays.
Thank
so
you.
thrilled to
Happy
meet and hear you.
holidays.
So great.
Thank
All right,
you.
listen,
Thank
at
you.
some point in our lives, we've all been on the giving or receiving end of a crappy present. That's what the holiday's about, right? So what are the rules for etiquette around bad gifts? Do you accept them with a smile? Do you pawn them off on another unwitting victim? Or are you like our friend Jared here and just
Hi, this is Oedipus, and it's been a rough few years, so it's time to get back to the Christmas we once remember. And to celebrate, GBH is creating a 10-hour Christmas Eve special beginning at 3 with Celtic Christmas, followed by a Jazz Christmas at 6, and then Christmas Eve with me at 8 until 1 Christmas morning. Christmas and Hanukkah music heard nowhere else, and definitely not in the mall. It's a GBH Christmas Eve music extravaganza, Saturday only on GBH 89.7.
Support for our programs comes from you. And Boston Ballet, presenting the Nutcracker. Dare to dream big with New England's favorite holiday tradition. You can gather with family and friends to see it live at the Citizens Bank Opera House now through December 31st. Tickets at bostonballet.org. And Subaru of New England. This winter, you can take your adventures outside in the 2023 Subaru Outback with symmetrical all-wheel drive. You can find your Subaru retailer at subaruofnewengland.com.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. We're live at the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Jim and Marjorie are out.
Where are they? They're not here.
They're not.
Looking around.
We're
Don't see
searching
them.
hot bars across the greater Boston region. Well, we've all gotten them. The terrible sweater from your mother-in-law, a priceless work of art painted by a friend that you can't wait to hang on the inside of your garbage can. We're talking about terrible holiday gifts, white elephants, gag gifts, or even stuff that wasn't intended to be so bad that they're good. What makes a gift really bad, and what are the unspoken rules when it comes to bad gift giving and bad gift getting?
Yep.
Our number is 877-301-8970. That's our number to call or text. Again, 877-301-8970. Are you a bad gift giver? Do you just scrounge up something from the basement, throw a bow on it, and call it a gift? What do you get when you get something truly, lame for a gift? Or is it really the thought that counts, regardless of how garish it might be? Again, our number is 877-301-8970.
You know what we didn't include in this list?
What?
The gift that someone gives you because they think that you deserve it or need it to change your life.
Oh.
So for example, say you have a messy car, and then they give you one of those little dust busters to clean your car, or perhaps you're not, the most healthful, fit person. They give you some fitness equipment and trying to urge you, to push you to do what they think is in your best interest. So we didn't include that on the list.
That sounds like a very passive-aggressive present.
Yeah, the passive-aggressive present. So we had a situation in our friend group where a friend who would always go out on Christmas Eve day and go shopping and go to the home section of a Bloomie's or a Macy's and buy you a couple of vases or candlesticks, and they weren't cheap, but they weren't thoughtful. He would just go to the home furnishing session. Some really snooty friends of ours who didn't end up being our friends after this, when he gave them the gift of a print that he had purchased, they thought it was a gag gift. And they laughed at him and said, this is so funny. This is so crazy. And it reminded me that, I have, my mother basically is in my head all the time, my late mom. I would never make fun of a gift that I got. I would just completely accept it be gracious about it, and then maybe re-gift it or put it in the closet, but always be gracious.
Well, I think there's a lot of acting that happens during those sessions, isn't there? Oh, this is lovely. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
What's the etiquette around re-gifting, by the way? You have to be so careful to make sure that it doesn't get seen by the original gift giver.
See, for me, I don't care if you re-gift it. I'm fine. If I give you a gift and you want to re-gift it, it's as if I gave you $15 or $20 or however, right? You're just going to use it to give to someone else. I'm fine with that. But you do want to try to not include it in your circle of friends. If it's a gift card, you want to make sure that it actually is active and working. But I'm all for the re-gift. We had friends who would get gifts and have a pile of them in their apartment. And when you walked in, they'd say, here's the re-gifting table. Oh. Is there anything here that you would like?
Well, that's very generous.
Hostess? Yes.
Well, again, our number is 877-301-8970. I think we began the show talking about what the ideal holiday is. You didn't hear a lot of talk about presents and gift giving, which is perhaps what landed us here talking about the gift giving now. Shall we go to the phone lines and start
let's go to Vanessa. Vanessa from Truro is calling us. Hey, Vanessa.
Hi, Vanessa.
Hey there. Hi. So I want to first of all claim my amazing gift-giving self, because I give the best gifts. Everyone always tells me that. But when I get something that's completely not me, I just end up feeling like this person doesn't know me at all, so why would I keep it? And I am kind of the queen of returning things, so I'm pretty good at guessing where something comes from, and if I can't guess where it's coming from, I'll be like, oh my God, this is great. Where did you get it? And then I'll know the shop to go return it to because they take everything back after Christmas.
Yeah, that's very clever.
It depends on how long how long between seeing the person, because sometimes people want to see you wearing it. But if they're not very close, I have no problem with that.
You're basically Rachel from Friends, returning stuff. Basically, that's what Rachel did. So let me ask you a couple of questions, Vanessa, because I'm happy to take anything that anyone gives me. One year when we were having some financial challenges, a friend said, would you be insulted if I gave you cash? I'm like, are you kidding? You give me cash every year. Whether I'm rich or poor, I'll take cash every year. But I'm always befuddled by the individuals and their points of view. Like, if I'd like to buy Jared a gift, but I don't really know Jared that well, right? So I don't know if he has a list. I don't want to go out and get him a gift and have him think she doesn't know me, because I don't know him that well. I haven't been to his house. We haven't hung out, or certain people in my family who have a list. And if you deviate from the list by color or by the store it comes from, you have ruined Christmas. Where are you in this list? Do you have a list that we should look at to get you a gift?
Well, I think people know that I love jewelry. Mm-hmm. I live alone. I love to cook. They kind of know my passions, storytelling and travel. So buy me an airplane ticket. Give me your miles.
So here's something that I bought everybody on my list. I actually have it with me. This is a visual, Vanessa, so if you're watching on YouTube, I went and bought 14 of these, and these are cord organizers for traveling, right? And I was going to give them to everyone. You're making faces, Jamie. That means you're not going to get yours. And my daughter basically forbade me from giving it out because she said that it was not at all personal. So I'm just going to be using them. Jared, would you like one of these for the holiday?
So who do we have next on our call list? Vanessa, thank you so much for the call. Actually,
you and Vanessa are not getting this.
Speaking of lists, there was a mom, Newsweek reported, a mom who kind of was dragged through the mud because she was very upset that she was given a gift on her baby's gift list that she didn't select. So how dare somebody vary from the list? She claims it had everything to do with she had done her proper research, the reviews, the specific gift that she chose was supposed to be safe and everything she wanted for the baby. But it gets a little dicey when you do that.
We've got a text from Susan in Merrimack. She says, one person's trash is another person's treasure. I donate unwanted gift items and hope they bring someone else joy. Jared. That's what she's doing there.
You
so
know,
there you go.
I've had one gift exchange already with a friend, and I think
How'd it go?
may already be my favorite gift of the season.
Was it a cable organizer for traveling?
It was not a cable organizer for traveling. It was, I'm going to go out on a limb and say it wasn't very expensive because it was an old tin to hold tea, and it was a company that had my mother's maiden name.
Oh, that's
and so
thoughtful.
I think my friend probably got it at a flea market or a little antique fair or something, and I love it. I love looking at it. It's got great history, and I'm sure it didn't have to cost a lot, and it has a lot of meaning.
So my problem is I don't shop.
Yeah, that's a problem.
So I don't go shopping a lot, so I'm not stumbling upon like very thoughtful gifts for people because I don't shop until like 2 weeks before Christmas. So it kind of takes me out of the thoughtful gift thing. Would you like some cash?
I'll take cash.
Okay. All right, let's go to Dave.
Hi, Dave.
In the car. Dave, thanks for calling. What's your gift take?
Hey, guys. So I had just kind of some advice and a brief, quick story. So when my kids were little, they saved up all their little coins and, from selling rocks at a road stand type of thing. And they saved up all this money to buy me what was then a carved box that was for holding incense sticks. And because at the time, my wife and I like to burn incense. And they got me this thing, they wrapped it up, and I completely ruined their surprise because I guessed at what it was before I opened it. And the faces that they had was just frowning, and they were so bummed out. So my advice to people is just if you think you know what it is, just shut up and don't say anything and act surprised.
What happens, Dave, if you
don't want to ruin it for them?
What happens if you don't know what it is? I can't remember what it was, but I once got a gift one year, and I really didn't know what it was or what it was used for. But I just kept saying how happy I was to get it. I don't.
Well, the bad thing was that I kind of made something up that it was like a I don't know what if you kids ever when you were a kid, little bottle rocket where you pump it up, you fill it with water, you pump it up with the air, you stick it on the thing, you push the button, it shoots into the sky. So I tried to make it sound like that's what I really thought it was, and they weren't seeing it. They're like, Dad, you blew it.
You ruined Christmas again, Dave. You ruined Christmas again.
Oh, man.
Dave, thanks for calling. Merry Christmas to you. Thanks. There's an article in The Atlantic for How to Make the Most of Bad Gifts by Arthur Brooks. One of the things that Arthur writes about, to Dave's point, is we often give gifts to get the big reaction. And this is something I think new parents are, you're not immune to. It's actually what you do. You give your child, even if they're 2 or 3, this amazing gift that they light up and they're so thrilled to get it, and then they never play with it again, right? But you want the reaction. And it's hard when you're giving gifts because, as Arthur Brooks points out, sometimes you get a gift and the use of it later gives you joy. Like we had, friends of family who would get together on Christmas every year. They gave us battery-operated candles just because we were there and they wanted to exchange a gift. We use them every single year. And we laugh about how this was sort of just a last-minute gift that they got us, but we get more use out of those inexpensive gifts than,
But it's like my tin. It's going to
Your
make me very happy. I'm serious. It's
my
gonna
tin for my tea.
So I put all the little tea bags that normally would be in the box that you buy at the supermarket. I put it all in, and it's going to make me very happy. And I've learned long ago the other side of that. I learned long ago to stop getting super excited about a gift I was going to give somebody because hardly ever does it pan out that they're as excited about the gift as you were in buying it and giving it.
There's also the environment of giving it. Like one year we got a really big gift, but we opened it out of order, and the people who gave it to us weren't in the room, and it was this whole big reveal. And I still think about, I'm so sorry you were in the kitchen getting the the eggnog when this happened. So we're looking for your gift stories. You can certainly give us a call or text us 877-301-8970.
Let's go to Lauren in Marblehead. Hi, Lauren.
Hello. Good afternoon.
Same to you. Happy holidays.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Go ahead, Lauren.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I think, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me now? Sorry. My bad. So no one loves to give a gift more than my mom. She does it with such heart and soul and just loves, puts all her energy into gift giving. But she has very different tastes than, say, I do or my sisters do. And every Christmas I would go to the house and we would have a lovely gift opening, and I would thank her profusely for all the sweet presents she gave me. And on the way home from the my parents' house, I would stop off at the donation bin and donate them.
There you go.
And I would never, ever let her know that. I just told her how wonderful she is, because she is. And I just think it's really where the heart is, and that's really what matters. And meanwhile, I would have a sister as an adult that would open up presents like a small child and be like, "Mom, oh, don't you know my taste?" And I'd be like, "Oh, Priscilla, that's horrible." So it's where the heart is.
That's great. Yeah, it's also some family members, when they get elderly and they want to just give you what they want to give you, and they give you the same thing every year, just take it. Don't stop and say, I'm not actually collecting those clowns anymore, or the little...
I love wrapped candy, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Or ribbon candy, which I actually do love. I think I'm probably one of the few people on the planet who does.
One of our texters says, my mother-in-law does this, such odd things like a box of crayons or a package of car air fresheners. And when in doubt, this texter says, give scratchers. So I can't really give lottery tickets or scratchers. Do you know why?
I do not know why.
I would be so resentful if they won.
I have seen that happen.
If they won like $1,000,
yes, yep.
I would be like, oh my God, I'm not that, I don't have that big a heart. My friend Jazzy G on YouTube has posted that he's happy to take one of my cable organizer bags.
Actually, Jill from Watertown has also texted us. I'd love one of your cord cable organizers.
I've got 500 of them because none of my friends want them, so there you go.
All right, let's go to Sarah calling from Swampscott. Hi, Sarah.
Hi. You guys have actually reminded me of 3 different situations. One, I had a baby, brand new baby. Actually, he wasn't even born at Christmas, and somebody gave me a gift for the baby, and it was a blanket for a full-size bed. And I thought, this is the most ridiculous thing. Why in the world did they give me this gift? Well, 35 years later, guess what? Out of all the gifts I'd gotten for that baby, that's the only one that's still in use.
See?
Great.
And it was a slow burn, right? It was a slow burn.
Exactly. And then you also reminded me of a friend's child. He was about 12, and I had no idea what to get him. And he was, but I knew he liked race cars, and I knew he liked Snickers candy bars. So I found a race car, like a cardboard race car that was filled with Snickers. And I gave it to him, and he opened it up, and he seemed really disappointed. And I was like, "You don't like your gift, man?" And he's like, "Oh, it's the thought that counts." I said, "Great. Next year I'll just think about getting you something."
That's perfect.
But no, I always try to be gracious to whether I like it or not, because I think giving is when I give gifts, that's the biggest part for me too, is giving. And you want to make somebody smile, so I always smile, even if it's not the greatest gift.
Thank you. Have a great holiday, Sarah. Thanks so much for calling. That reminds me of little kids when you have the baby's first Christmas or second year or third year. They have no recollection at all of what you've given them.
No.
I suggest that you just go to a toy store, you buy the gifts, you wrap them up, they open them, you take pictures, and then you return the toys. How about that? How about that for, no, I wouldn't really do that, but, they have no idea if they had them or not.
Well, I think I was just reading somebody's column where they said they go into the back recesses of their kid's closet or their toy box and wrap them up and give them because they didn't really know they were there.
Or some people save the gifts that the kids are given to give them later in the year. I'm not that disciplined. I was never that disciplined to do that, but,
to do all of your shopping now, but then...
No, just if, you gave my child a gift, they'd open it and then I'd put it away, and then later on I would take it out. I mean, that's the really organized parent.
That's very
not me.
Well, you have a cord organizer. Clearly, you're somebody who's into organization.
I'm organized my personal stuff, but not my actual behavior. So that's a problem. Let's go to Joan, who's calling us from Salem. Hello, Joan. What's your gift story?
Hi, Joan.
Well, one year after I got a real job, I was making money, and my mom was she was a single mom, and she worked hard her entire life, and she cleaned offices, and she did hair, and her hands were red and rough, and I took her out one year, and I outfitted her from the skin out. So I bought her a new bra, new panties, new slips, new stockings, new shoes, new gloves, new hat, new coat, new dress, new jewelry. Everything on her was new. And she absolutely loved it. She loved it. She was so proud of me and so proud of the gift. It was the best thing I ever did.
I love that story.
That's beautiful.
That is incredible.
You're a good person, Joan.
See, that's a good.
See
That's
me, I'm
knowing your
returning.
person.
It's knowing your person. Yeah, it's hard. That's great. That's very thoughtful.
I think you're going to have to order 500 more
Listen,
cord
people are loving
organizers.
my cord
Everybody
organizers.
wants one.
Maybe I should go on the Home Shopping Network. This could be my next career. What do you think?
Sue has turned into Joan
I'm
Rivers
using them.
just as we speak.
I should only be so lucky as to turn into Joan Rivers.
Right. Jules and Beverly. Sue, travel cord organizer, is a great present. She's on her way over right now.
All right, so Fred from Rentham points out that they had a tough few years, but his wife, the two of them gave each other gifts that we needed anyway, simple things like socks that we had a lot of use from. That way there wasn't any needless expense and clutter in our already cluttered home with two small kids. I got to tell you, the clutter factor, that's also something that drives me. Like, I don't want something big. I don't want it to take up room. My goal is to, at some point, live in one of those tiny house storage bins that gets turned into a tiny house on a lot somewhere away from people.
Actually, I wouldn't mind that either. As I've said before on this show, I maybe with other people, but I'm not a stuff person.
Yeah.
I don't want a house filled with stuff. How about this? This is horrible. Not my story. This is a texter.
Okay.
But I saw on Facebook that some poor woman got a bathroom scale and a subscription to Weight Watchers for Christmas from her boyfriend's mother. Can you imagine?
That's the passive-aggressive gift that
That's
I really
just aggressive.
Really hate. Yeah, that's aggressive. There's a whole... The angry gift giver or the controlling gift giver, they're a scourge. They should not be allowed to participate in any holiday stuff. Plus, you got the whole Yankee swap, the stealing of the gift business. Folks don't love that either. I kind of
those
enjoy
turn
that.
vicious.
I know, I love that.
They try. Yes, I like to sit back and you see people's real personalities come out.
Yeah. All right, let's talk to Bob, who's calling us from Ipswich. Hello, Bob. Happy holidays.
Hi, Bob.
Happy holidays. I was just thinking that I grew up with a mother that would buy presents for everybody throughout the year. I mean, she would be someplace and she'd say, "Oh, Uncle John would love this," or, "Your cousin would love this." And she would buy them, and she would actually take them home and wrap them for Christmas and then put them in the attic.
That's
and I don't wrap them and put them in the attic, but I do buy gifts that way throughout the year for people.
See, I would like to be that person, but I hate shopping. I really do.
Yeah, I do too.
I hate buying things. I hate spending money. I hate shopping. And then, 3 weeks before the holidays, I'm like, oh gosh, I got to get these cable organizers.
Yeah. Oh, wait, today's the day I buy in bulk. How about this text? My daughter received an engraved ornament with the wrong name on it.
Oh.
Her friend said she knew it was the wrong name and said her daughter wouldn't mind.
I have an ornament
that would go right into the trash.
From my mother that said aunts. I was not an aunt at the time, and it said to Aunt Sue. And we actually hang it every year because it's hysterical. We think of my late mom, who also won't tell me how much vanilla to put in my sour cream cookies.
Right.
And we're now understanding why I am the way I am.
This will be the year. This will be the year you figure out how much vanilla to put in those cookies. If you missed it earlier, Sue was talking about how she has her mother's recipe-ish for the cookies, but she's still trying to fine-tune it because her mother left something out.
Yeah, on purpose. All right, let's talk to Tim in Worcester. Hello, Tim. Happy holidays. What's your gift story?
Okay, I have the worst gift giving and receiving.
Oh.
I have a friend that lost his partner 2 years ago, and before he passed away, the partner, I gave them a $500 check to go and have a good time. And yesterday I received a bag of pretzels, some chocolates that you could not find at a dollar store.
Ooh.
And then I had some fruit slices in the form of candy, and it said honey and sugar on it. It was the grossest thing. Now, I'm not expecting a $500 check back or whatever, but
yeah, you are.
Above,
yeah, you are, Tim.
Something above a dollar store. Something above a dollar store would have been nice.
Well, what's hard too is when you have wealthy friends. That's also the hard part. You don't care. It's not. You don't have any wealthy friends, Jamie. Oh, so when you have wealthy friends and they give you some extraordinary gift, and you're like, "Here's a tea box."
Yeah, see what she did there? That is Sue. I am done hosting you.
All right.
I'm done with
That's
this show.
That's it for the year. We're over. Thanks to all of our callers and texters.
Yes, that was a fun one. Thanks for listening to another edition of Boston Public Radio. You can keep up with us 24/7 by way of our podcast. Jim, Marjorie, and the entire BPR team are off next week. You'll hear fantastic best of shows, though, Monday through Friday. And then everyone will be back live on January 2nd, 2023. Our crew is Zoe Matthews, Aidan Connolly, Mackenzie Farkas, and Brendan Deedy. Our engineer is John the Claw Parker, with Bill Piacatelli on the board. Our executive producer is Jamie Bologna. We love you, Jamie. Yay. Special thanks to the BPL team, Evelyn Brito, Colin Cockrell, Sai Patel, and Brad Lewis. Sue, up until the very last second, it was fun hosting with you.
As always, love being here, and thank you for inviting me into your GBH BPR family. Happy New Year.
Happy holidays. I'm Jared Bowen.
I'm Sue O'Connell. We'll see you in 2023.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll see you then.
Have a great day.